Happy Friday, everybody. My name is Josh Corey. You're listening to IronRealmMedia on Flat Earth Friday FRINGE-CAST. TGIF, thank God it's flat. Today is July 28th, 2017. You know, we've had a bit of a revelation this week. Apparently, we've been putting out videos on YouTube for quite a while now, despite our low numbers. It's been a little over a year since the six of us have got together and started doing this thing, bringing our flat earth knowledge together and sharing it with the 5 or 6 people that listen. So this is just a big shout out to all those people that have been tuning in for however long you've been tuning in. Again, we do not have quantity in listeners, but by God, we cornered the market on the quality. So thanks everybody out there that's a solid listener to IronRealmMedia. We really appreciate your loyalty. So yeah, it's a normal week. We got a full house. We got Rob, John, Walt, Adam, James, and of course I'm Josh. We're all here. So just want to give a quick shout out to Rob. I know he's been feeling a little down, so I just wanted to let him know that we're all here for you, buddy. We love you, and whatever we can do.
We love you, Rob.
I haven't been feeling down.
I know. I just wanted to give you a little rub.
Well, I have been feeling down because I work so bloody much. But yeah, all right, move on.
But I do love you. I love all these guys here. We really have been together a long time, and we've been doing a lot of things more than just putting out these videos on YouTube. We get together throughout the week, and we've been doing that for a long time. So we've really formed a great bond, even though we've never actually met. So there really is genuine love and kinship amongst us all. So I think that's what comes across best over the air, is just the fact that we all do have a genuine relationship with each other. We're not just here because we're flat earthers, but we're here because we love each other and we happen to be flat earthers.
That guy. You're that guy. I love that guy.
Yes, sir. Love that guy. We love you too, Rob. You koala, you huggy, cuddly little koala.
You obviously haven't seen me in the flesh then.
I've seen enough on a computer screen to deny that description. Yeah,
that's it. But
I'd still give you a hug, bruv. If you're feeling down, mate. If you're feeling down, your mates are here. Offload.
I'll tell you what, there's something about Flat Earth. You know, there are ups and downs. I don't know. I imagine almost everyone on the panel here has felt this. That, you know, you get dry spots. It's a roller coaster ride of emotions and, you know, revelations this week and bitching the next week. You know, I've gone through the same sort of thing, Rob. You know, where you just can't be asked anymore, and yeah, next week will be different.
What I did do yesterday was I saw Ross for the first time in about 3 weeks yesterday, and he didn't get any of the stuff that we wanted him to go do on his South American flight.
Yeah, nice one.
He said he went to sleep on one side, and his bubble didn't move. That's what didn't happen. He went over there, and his bubble was exactly the same spot, I suppose, but he didn't record it or anything like that. But he said his bubble was in the same spot. But I asked him to start up a Facebook page for North Queensland, for Flat Earth North Queensland, and see if we could get any members there and maybe have a meet up there, because it'd be good to. Well, I saw Walt this week in Oregon and with Marble. You know, they sitting in a pub with like-minded people. I'd love to do that.
Why don't you just go stand on the corner with a flat Earth flag and
I've lived here.
See what happens
in this town my whole life, and there wouldn't be. I couldn't stand on the corner with someone not knowing me.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God! And to get there. Yeah, I couldn't do it. So that's what I've done. I'm trying to get Ross to open up a Facebook page, Facebook North Queensland, see if we can get some members and maybe do a meetup.
Right.
Maybe do a meetup of like-minded people here. So whether that happens or not.
With Facebook, Rob, that's a great way. I'll tell you, though, Chris Cox, the guy in Oregon who got that whole thing set up, there's an app. It's easily available on Android. I'm not sure about iPhone, but it's called Meetup. And you just kind of go in there and search, and you'll see in pretty much every area I've searched other than Oregon, there was not a Flat Earth community yet. So you could pretty much start one there and be like, you know, kind of like Chris did. It started out with like 6 people saying they would show up, and by the time D. Marvel put a video up, Mark Sargent promoted it, Miss Carolyn Gutman-Day promoted it on her channel. There was 25, 26 people there at one point. So
is that a flat Earth app, or is it just a meetup
it's a complete,
app?
Like, just a meetup thing. You put in what you're interested in, photography, the hiking. In fact, the first meetup they were doing when I got there, the week I was there, was going to be a hiking there somewhere in Seaside. So, and it's quite a distance from where I was staying with my brother. So the one in
So if anyone in North Queensland listens to this show in the future, get in contact with me, Rob_Freddy, Twitter, and contact me, and we'll try and do something at some stage, because I've already got Ross on board. Ross will meet anytime, but it'd be good.
What's the Facebook page going to be called? Do you know?
I
just told him to put Flat Earth North Queensland as the
that's
as the
a
title.
Good thing to do. Name it with your city. That way it identifies you.
So, I thought a lot of cities around here, so there'd be, within where I live, there would be 300,000 or 400,000 people within 2 hours drive, I suppose.
You see, I hear your sorrow, mate. I did try and set you up with a flat earther this week, didn't I? With or is it DJ?
Yeah, but
DNN?
they're only about 10,000 miles away, so that's quite difficult.
Same latitude though, nearly.
Yeah.
If he was in Australia, he'd only be down the road. But unfortunately, he was in South Africa. Never mind. Plenty in South Africa.
I've really spoken to. They all seem to be down south, Melbourne, Sydney, because most of Australia's population is from Brisbane downwards. With Brisbane being in Queensland, where I live, but Brisbane's got a couple of million. Then you got Melbourne and Sydney, you got 4 million each. But they're all a long way away from me. They're all down south. So
you want to go and go and hang around the Originals camp? I bet there's a lot of them that know the Earth is flat and stationary.
Sorry, John, what was that?
Who is that?
Hanging around the Originals, not the Aboriginals, but the Originals. They wouldn't have been fooled by the spinning Earth ball thing. Native Australians?
Yes, we can call them Aboriginals, can't we?
No. Because that's not originals. That's Aboriginals.
Oh, all right.
It's a backhanded insult.
I think I'd go with that one, John. Yeah, it's Originals, isn't it?
I think so.
It's just like Native Americans were called Indians because they thought that was India, you ignorant fools.
So Aboriginals, the prefix meaning what? Like without?
Don't know. You'd have to look it up. Can't remember.
Question. So we got a pretty big show today. There's a Facebook friend of mine that I saw made a post that he had a friend of his who was still living on a ball, who had a bunch of questions. His page. Are we dropping?
You are, yeah.
We lost your audio for a second, Josh. I'm not sure, but you're back now. Go ahead, sir.
No, I see OBS is acting pretty strange. I got all kinds of weird colors flashing at me now, and I'm not sure why. I was just running smooth. Nothing's
Flat Earth Friday, maybe?
Friday. Must be time.
We're offline, I think.
Sweet. I mean, I'm still broadcasting here. It's just in a...
That's all right. We can hear you now. Just go for it.
All right.
Go for it.
So anyway, Brian Acker took these questions that his friend had about the flat Earth and posted them to these several flat Earth groups on Facebook and to his friends on his wall. But apparently he couldn't get anybody to bite. So I saw his post and just said, hey, I happen to do a show. There's 6 flat earthers from all across the plane. Said, if you have some questions, I'm sure we'd be happy to answer them. So he sent us a copy of his friend's questions, and I could kind of see why his friend wasn't getting much of a response, because they're really pretty basic. you're in this for a while, you run into a lot of time wasters, and basically these professional shills that like to sit there and ask pointless, fallacious questions that's going to ultimately go nowhere. It's just designed for you to waste an entire day playing with the trolls. So that's what they're really good at. So we decided to get Brian on because, again, we love to hear a good coming to Flat Earth story. Plus, we wanted to sort of address some of these questions because it's not that they're hard questions, because they're not really about the Flat Earth. And answering these questions isn't about spreading some Flat Earth knowledge. These questions are so fallacious. I think that they deserved a bit of attention just to be able to point out sort of the thought process it takes that's going to help people come to Flat Earth, because it really is so far from what we've been ingrained with and indoctrinated with that it takes a little bit of practice. So if you're not used to it and you're not going to recognize it, you're going to be forced to ask these kind of crazy off the wall fallacious questions that people are going to ignore because you haven't approached it from the right angle, because you're still not thinking critically enough to formulate the questions properly. So I thought this would be a good way to be able to do that.
It's also coming from a position of a foundation, a faulty foundation, should I say? You know, like someone, if they accidentally stumbled across the Flat Earth Folly Society, then they would have these questions as well, because the foundation of the propaganda they're putting out in these places is complete horseshit. So of course their questions are going to be horseshit too. So yeah, it's a great example of coming from completely the wrong foundation in the first place, because you can't be asked to do some proper research. Just so.
And I think we all kind of had maybe our own knee-jerk reaction to these questions, in that we were just like, really? These are the questions? And I mean, they're very basic, so maybe we approach it that way. These are, like you say, primer questions. These are the most basic of the basic questions that someone who has no knowledge of this would definitely be asking. So,
that being said, there are some questions in there that are quite unique. I'd say, I'm not entirely seeing where the thought process is coming from, but some of the questions are quite bizarre. It's not ships over the horizon and Coriolis and pendulums and stuff. There's just some amazing leaps of assumption and everything in there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Some huge jumps of logic that make no sense at all.
Bizarre is a great word for them. Yes, there's some bizarre questions.
Strawman is how I'd describe them, guys.
That too. Yeah.
Indeed, sir.
Like the man without a brain. And the Wizard of Oz, exactly.
Just remember, most people haven't heard of Flat Earth yet.
Say again,
most people haven't.
Right, exactly, Rob.
Most people haven't heard of Flat Earth yet. So these are still the burning questions. And like one of my mates asked me the other day, he goes, "Oh, well, how do time zones work?" And we've heard this 1,000 times. So I explained it to him. You've got to explain it to him, because most people haven't heard. So and that's probably one thing that's been getting to me, having to explain the same shit over and over and over again.
That's why
it's
I started the blog, Rob.
It's so obvious to us, but I talk to people face to face, John. Most of the people I talk face to face. Yeah, that's what I do. But and that's.
But you're right.
Sorry. Just on that point, Rob.
Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, sorry. On that point, Rob, that's kind of a bit like my job, mate. And the one thing I would say to you is, you know what? The amount of times I have to tell a woman how to use a pessary and a thrush cream, and a kid's how to take this and that. And the patter that you develop eventually, for the first year, it gets a bit repetitive. And eventually you develop into a patter that is robust enough that just rolls off the tongue. Yeah. And it becomes solid enough. And I appreciate what you're saying. It's boring now, but actually it enables you to bat away a lot of silly arguments once you've got that solid pat down.
Or maybe if I didn't get the roll of the eyes and the, those sorts of actions or reactions every time you might try and talk, and And then the biggest problem I've found is if you're talking to one person, then another person overhears, and then it's 2-on-1 or 3-on-1, and a group will always beat a single person every time. Doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong. The 3 or 4 people will come in there, and you get beat.
You doubt yourself. No way, man.
Oh no, I'm not doubting myself. I'm being beaten by 3 or 4 people who won't listen.
But you know the Earth is flat, so you are never defeated. Ever.
That's not the point, James. That's not the point. When you continue to do this and you get 4 people rolling their eyes at you, then it's pretty.
I don't know. I'm going to have to try it, but I would think your confidence in it and your calmness and your patter, that really is what happens. You do develop a routine.
I don't bother anymore. I haven't even bothered with the guy in the office anymore. I don't bother. I haven't spoken about it in a number of weeks now.
Dude,
I'm over it.
You've been fighting on the front lines, man. I'm proud of you, brother.
A veteran for sure.
Yeah. That's a different. It's one thing on making videos and blogs and typing, but like face to face is another. So I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
People are energy beings, and that does drain you when they're just constantly attacking, and
I wouldn't talk to people on the street about this. I'd barely talk to people I know about this, but yeah. So for you to have everyone who works with you know this information is massive target on your back, and top respect. It would piss me off too.
Yeah, well, that's probably what's done me in, I suppose, for the last few weeks. I just don't bother anymore. Don't bother with it. It's just unless if they come and ask me a question,
get a flyer.
Then I'll answer it. Yeah.
Get a 1-sheet flyer and fill it out, and if anyone just walks up to you going, blah, 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 you just shove this flyer in their face and walk off. Stick them up in the bogs. Stick them up all over the walls and everything. Just look, these are your bullshit questions, and these are the answers. Now go and do your own research.
Well, I send them because I've got most of the people in the office. I've got their phone number, so I'll send them a video. Watch this. No, they don't watch it. They don't watch it. I'm not watching that for an hour. Well,
no, I had a guy the other day
ask any more questions.
Tweeting 24 hours, but didn't have time to watch a 16-minute video. It was just like, well, if you're not going to watch the video, then don't. Then this conversation's over. Goodbye.
Well, that kind of relates to the questions in a way that we were sent. There's kind of a part of it that if you could be asked to sit down and write those questions like that, in half the time of typing it up, you could have found out half the answers yourself. And that disappointed me with the questions, because I'd love to help people along. But those questions, and it's a bit like the guys in the office, mate, they're not there for help. And maybe there's a point where you take a bit of James's biblical teaching and stop throwing your pearls at swine.
Well, what are the chances that this Ryan D. Hall just cut and paste them from some cretin forum like MetaJunk?
Oh,
I mean, this is what happens.
We've seen this before. You're absolutely right.
Although saying that, I did keyword search it, a couple of sentences from the questions, and didn't come up with anything on Google. So, no, I mean, I've seen people writing reams and reams of stuff in comments on YouTube and things like this, and it's just like you say, Adam. The time it took them to write that crap, they could have gone and looked it up.
Yeah,
and
they clearly, to me, demonstrates they're not actually interested, are they? They're interested in having an argument with you. They're not interested in even considering the fact that you might actually have a point, and that they could find out the truth themselves. They're interested in disproving your point, because their religion says that what you're espousing is blasphemy.
Well, they're interested in massaging their ego, and they're interested in a nice shooting fish in a barrel session. But I think a lot of them go away with a tail between their legs, and some of them actually become flat earthers, but not many. Not many of the diehards, that is.
keep in mind, Rob, that sometimes all you need is a little bit of time. You've been hammering these guys for almost a year with information. Now, if you just let them sit, they're gonna think about it. It's gonna stew. Trust me. We can dip back a bit.
We'll be able to hear straight from the horse's mouth. We have Brian Acker with us. He's joined us. So we'll be able to find out exactly kind of what the story is with Ryan and where he's coming from. Because as I understand it, they are friends. So he'll be able to give us a bit more background. Brian, how are you doing? Oh, you're muted. You're pretty quiet. I can't hear you. So, well, Brian figures out that audio. We'll spend a little bit more time with Rob before he has to get out of here. And Rob, I'm just giving you a little trouble earlier. I know you're not necessarily feeling down. I just haven't talked to you in a while. You've been pretty quiet. You've been busy doing other stuff. So I just wanted to come in, say hi, and give you a little trouble just because I do love you.
Yeah. Work-wise, I'm busy.
Yeah, I figured
so I haven't been doing much at all, other than yesterday I watched a quick video on NASA and how they simulate the eclipse, and the Earth seems to be spinning the wrong way on all their simulation eclipse videos. Has everyone seen that?
Yeah, I saw that. It was hilarious.
Brilliant.
They're really fudging it.
With Dr. Zach did a video actually a while ago, months ago, on the upcoming eclipse, and that's a neat one too.
And I do believe Antonio Subrats and Flat Earth Math are currently, as we speak, debating it out over the efficacy of of this upcoming eclipse. So
he did a good video today saying, the heliocentrism or whatever is going to be extinct in August when the eclipse comes, and I agree. I think when you analyze this, and we've got the tools now to analyze it, it's going to be really, really difficult to have their west to east bumbling along moon casting a west to east shadow over the spinning ball below. I mean, it's going to be hilarious to work out.
Not only that, John, apparently in Dr. Zach's video, he actually worked out with AutoCAD that it shouldn't even be over. If everything was the way they said it would, the eclipse would happen in the ocean just before.
Right.
Yeah. But, I mean, astounding stuff, like mind-blattering. Like how, and have you seen the actual NASA animation? I think that's one Rob was talking about. Boy, is that poor.
Well,
the questions that you were talking about earlier on, the questions that you were talking about earlier on too, we have the guy in chat, Ryan Hall. He's in chat, ripping it up in chat at the moment. Hello, Ryan.
Oh, well, hello. While we sort out Brian's audio. I think we got you now, Brian.
Okay, good. Sorry about that, fellas.
That's all right. You may have to put on a set of headphones because I think your speakers are on. So we're going to get some wicked feedback. Or maybe just turn this down a hair.
Is that better?
Hiya, Brian.
A little bit. Maybe you could go a little lower. Just avoid that feedback so your speakers aren't listening to yourself. I think that's better. Yeah, I think that'll do. So it's nice to finally talk to you. Maybe I think you can go grab some headphones. That would be better. While we sort out Brian's.
Hey, John. Just something in chat just made me think that Sigma Octantis or Tentis star that you wanted me to check out. Is that supposed to be the center of the Southern Cross? Is it?
It's meant to be the equivalent of Polaris in the south.
Southern Polaris, right?
But it's not visible.
I don't see it.
It's not visible
to the naked eye, though.
But the area is.
Yeah, everything rotates around something, but there's not a particular star that I can go out at night time and see. It's not there. It's not there. Apparently, I've talked to people down south who reckon if they grab a telescope, they can, a the most fantastic telescope ever, they can see something there, but with your naked eye, I can't see anything there. I've done the time lapse. I've done the time lapse without a moon, which you can capture more stars, and I can't see it.
It's too dim, Rob.
It would be the equivalent. Ryan Hall.
It would be the
Ryan Hall in
equivalent.
chat there now saying,
You got Ryan chat in the hall, or Ryan Hall in the chat.
Yeah, he's talking about that Sigma star, mate. I live down here. I can't see it.
No, you won't be able to see it.
Shit.
You won't be able to see it. Oh, Rob.
Did I get my audio fixed?
I think you did, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Well, excellent. It's nice to talk to you. Hi, Brian.
Okay, so Ryan D. Hall. Me and Ryan D. Hall go back about 10 years, actually. When I first became involved with the Truth Movement, he was one of the first fellows that I found on Facebook. And, I said, hey, this guy got some bang on truths. He was teaching about HARP and teaching about all kinds of other things. And so I've been following him ever since then. And he made a lot of sense up until, a few years ago. And then I got this post here the other day that he tagged me in. And, I mean, I could have went through each and every question and answered each and every single question. But that is not what he's interested in. And so I don't waste my time anymore.
Sounds like we all hit the same opinion as the motivation of those questions. They're not there to be answered, are they?
No, they're not. No, most definitely. They're there to cause division. They're there to distract. And they're there to divert you from, what we're trying to do. I have a peaceful conversation amongst, I've met almost thousands of friends since I became a flat earther, and I find the number one tactic the trolls try is division and diversion.
Do you not think, Brian, though, that when you're in amongst good companionship, when you discuss the questions, that their agenda becomes quite apparent and laughable almost? It's no longer based on science. It's no longer based on facts. It's based on a premise to try and create an argument that you're not making and disprove that argument. And I think we talk about it week after week in different form after form, and the patheticness of the argument that's against us, that rather than engage in a proper scientific debate on the facts, that we get this. And so be it. But as we're saying, the eclipse is coming, and you can't argue that.
And I think it's too what John said. It's just laziness. And why? I don't know, because their religion says they have to defend it. So, because literally the time they waste with that they could learn everything. Anyways.
So, I guess we could run through some of these questions. They are pretty laced with expletives. Maybe I'll do my best to edit them out, or we'll just figure out how best to do this.
I can read them, and I can leave the expletives out of them. I got them right here in front of me. I've been through them, so I know them quite well.
You want to do me real quick before you start reading those out? Can you maybe unplug your mic and plug it back in, or give it a little twist in the port and see? It sounds like there's a small short in it somewhere, getting a little bit of a crack.
It's silly with those questions, isn't it? Because we all know we're flat-tards. We don't need constant reminding of how retarded we are when you ask us a question. So again, it's, to me, stuff like that, mate, just goes to the credence that you have no argument, because you have to pad your argument with a statement that my response is intellectually deficient in some way, and that is a sign of a weak argument in my book. Do you know what I mean? That if you engage in that kind of behavior in any other professional world, you've already lost before you begin, in reality.
Yeah, I agree.
So here's what I just had this revelation. If you could he uses the term flat earthers a lot in here. See, flat earthers say this and flat earthers do that. Just replace that with your favorite derogatory term of any group of people. Use the N-word. Use whatever word you want and put it in there, and see if that doesn't come off like a super hyper judgmental person that's just willing to make blatant statements about anybody without having to look at the content of the character of an individual.
I hate Northerners as well, Josh. So yeah, Northerners are
it's not really much of a surprise that he's not getting answers to this. I mean, if he could actually phrase the questions in a polite, intelligent way, then he may find he gets answers to these things. To categorize everyone, stereotype everyone, assume that all flat earthers think the same thing. It's just, I'm not surprised you don't get answers to it. Why would anyone bother talking to you if you can't form a sentence without calling someone a name?
It's like a script for Jerry Springer Show. If you guys are familiar with the Jerry Springer Show, it's just all about this bizarre, over-the-top, outrageous drama where everybody just says the most outlandish thing in the most outlandish situation they can, and then try to break out into a fist fight over it. And that's what this approach is. We're just going to say these super outlandish things in an attempt to hopefully trigger somebody, and then we can just get into this big shoving match over what shape of the earth is. And I think he's having a problem. He's running into these non-hostile flat earthers, and he's just being ignored. And I suspect that it's probably upsetting him even more.
Well, he is very used to being told off on a daily basis.
Oh, well, I guess it's good practice then.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian. You want to start reading some of these questions?
Well, I'm just hoping that my microphone works. So I'll start off reading the questions. I'll start with the first one. And it says, how can people on a flat disk see underneath that disk if nobody has been underneath that disk before? Okay, so that's first question. Yet we somehow know of a South Star, not just a North Star, Sigma Octantis. How the heck do we know the existence of the South Star if there is no South Pole? In the flat Earth model, all magnets apparently have only one pole. Such nonsense. So did you get all that?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Even the first question, how can people on a flat disk see underneath that disk if there's nobody been underneath that disk before?
Right.
What does that have to do with flat Earth, right? Who cares?
That's our first point proven, Josh, isn't it? That please, dude, if you're gonna have a conversation with us, at least do us the courtesy of learning the basics about what you're about to oppose. I'm quite capable of opposing the heliocentric model because I understand it. And if I was going as a heliocentrist to engage with flat earthers, I would at least learn their model, not have. And this is the disappointing thing about that first bit of the question. It's like there's not even a response to have, because you may as well talk about a pizza or any other, flat cyst thing that's nothing to do with our current understanding of models.
Well, find me a flat earther that thinks we live on a disc like a pizza floating through space that has an underside. Yeah. When you say flat earthers think this, then you are assuming propaganda that you've read is correct. You've done no research at all other than to go to the standard Google flat earth beliefs and taken that as gospel. Do some research. I don't know a single flat earther that thinks we live on a pizza disc.
Nope, I've never spoken to one. In the 2+ years I've been doing this, I haven't spoken to a single one. It's all just been yeah.
So basically the answer is we don't know. The deepest drill that's gone down is 8 miles, the Russian 8-mile drill, and it couldn't go any further because it was melting the bits.
But they they describe it in meters, so it sounds big. They're like 51,000 meters below the earth.
Also, guys, let's think about this really. In all the stages of working through this whole flat earth research that you did in the early days, how long did it take you to find the infinite plane? Let's be honest. You didn't jump on the infinite plane in the first couple of months, even the first couple of 6 months. Some of the big, quote-unquote big researchers in the field actually argued against the infinite plane theory quite a bit in the early days of their shows, if you will remember. So saying that not a lot of flat earthers believe in a floating disk in space might not exactly be true. I think there actually are quite a few that are working their way through that even as we speak.
I'd come back to that, Walt, with the two things James and John said there, right? And I don't disagree with you. First of all, you're right. The concept of things that work beyond what we first start to imagine is very difficult. But the concept of trying to imagine something that does fit with reality is very different to recognizing the fact, and this come back to the ballers and the description and the question he's just given us. That's fine, dude, but the systems you're talking about don't work on your model either. As James said,
exactly.
If we've been down on a ball or on a flat plane is 8 miles, right? So stop pretending that the religion that you believe in is real science. Admit it's scientism, and let's meet in the middle with science and figure out what the frick is going off, pal. But whilst ever we're dealing with fundamental scientists, yeah, it's like trying to argue with a jihadi with a bomb strapped to him. You ain't going to get nowhere, because their religious beliefs are too entrenched for logical debate to be engaged. And that's sad.
Trying to blow out a light bulb, Adam. You're hitting the nail right on the head. You can't blow out a light bulb.
No.
So moving on to the magnets, maybe.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yes,
we can start some of the Sigma Antanas questions later on. We've sort of already addressed it a little bit. Let's get Brian go ahead and read that next question about the giant spinning magnet.
All right. Earth is a giant spinning magnet. From basic science, we know and observe that all magnets have 2 poles. Earth has a north pole, but no south pole. This is idiocracy and ridiculous. Flat earthers say the South Pole does not exist. Laugh out loud.
Again, I'd say, how many flat earthers does he know that say the South Pole doesn't exist?
And could I start with the beginning?
Cut in too, or something. Or who's in order? Josh, you're the host.
Let's go ahead and let Adam go, since he spoke up first for wanting to cut in. Adam, go ahead.
Dude. The first thing is there's no physics, science, basic science. There is no such thing as a North and South Pole. There are 2 things, yeah, and they both rotate in the same way. But if one's heading out the top of an object and one's heading out the bottom of an object, they appear to rotate in the same way. It's the same thing heading in the same rotation from a different point of origin that we're experiencing with magnetism. There is no such thing as a North and South Pole. And again, when we get arguments like this, it's like arguing with the blind about what they can see.
Ken Wheeler,
because it's
is what I'd say.
Oh, there you go. There's a great place to start to learn the basics of magnetics.
So there you go, Ryan. Ken Wheeler, go and do 100 hours research like most of us have done, at least on Ken Wheeler.
And I would just like to add, your point, and you're making a big fun about how it has a plus and a minus. Who's to say that our plus and minus isn't the sun and moon, and that's our battery? So have an open mind as well.
Well, also we can manufacture a magnet. Here is a speaker magnet with a North Pole center and a South Pole all the way around. Can you see my screen or not?
Yeah,
that's brilliant. Yeah, there it is.
There's a speaker magnet.
There you go.
Now, what I'd like Ryan to show us is how we're described here. Scientists think that electrical currents flowing in the liquid outer core, so this liquid outer core here, deep inside the Earth's
That's the chewing nougat.
Deep inside the Earth, generate the Earth's magnetic field. So you have a molten liquid core deep inside the Earth that generates the magnetic field. Although it's liquid metal, it moves around through. Okay, so liquid metal would need to be at quite a high temperature, right? So we're led to believe, or we're taught, that this liquid metal is creating magnetism. When you can go and look up Curie temperature, Curie temperature, what temperature does a magnet lose its magnetism? It's around, let's say, 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Magnets will quickly lose their magnetic properties. The magnet will become permanently demagnetized. Okay, so you're asking to believe things that you can't create in reality, whereas we can quite happily create a speaker magnet. And
could I add one? That last picture, John, that you've got there. You know, if you just go back to the Earth with the magnetic core.
Okay.
And this is a great point. Even if you didn't believe what John just explained to you about magnetism and the way it degrades temperature acceleration, have a little. There is the Earth's core, and we can see the top end of what Venezuela, Nicaragua, all those sort of countries. Top end of South America.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, is somebody hearing buzzing? Like, is there a buzzing or crickets, or is it just?
Yeah, it's crickets, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm all exotic now. I'm in it.
All right. So it is good. Okay. All right.
I've asked them to be quiet, but they keep rubbing the legs together, dude. They're rubbing the legs.
Yeah, those are definitely Italian crickets.
Yeah.
Go ahead, mate.
So if you just look at the picture that John's put up there, and take your compass out, and imagine you're stood on the most northerly point of South America that you can see there. Which way, bearing in mind that it's the magnetic core, which we admit molten doesn't make magnetic, but imagine it wasn't molten, and that's a big point north. If you're stood on the north of South America there, bearing in mind the top of the magnet is pretty much it's close to 90 degrees parallel to you, isn't it? Ain't going to point to the North Pole.
No, and you'd also expect it to reverse itself when you went south of the equator and headed towards the South Pole. But no magnet on the planet.
South Pole magnet.
No magnet on the planet. No compass on the planet points anywhere other than north.
John, can I just say, mate, you've literally crashed him to the ground. He's literally done in the chat. He said your answer was ridiculous. This show's a joke. So literally, in your one point, you have freaking destroyed the entire thing. Thank you, sir. That was unbelievably well done.
Good. I mean, this chart here shows, and I love this. They say it goes from ferromagnetic to paramagnetic. So people are still claiming that above this temperature it's still paramagnetic, mate. If you start looking into what paramagnetic means, it just means it's attracted to magnets but doesn't hold any magnetic force. So it's literally just become a piece of iron or whatever. Or, you know, it's attracted to magnets but have no magnetization of itself. So yeah, working through these.
Proper.
Go ahead. Next one.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian. I suspect Ryan can either catch us on the replay or we can cut sound bites for him to listen to if it's a little too much trouble.
I don't think he cares too much. He wasn't, like I said, he wasn't in it to get the truth anyway. He's just in it to make fun and to ridicule. And anytime anybody calls him out on anything, he freaks out, curses and swears, calls you all kinds of names. Basically what all the ballers do. Right?
Well, we might as well go through some of his questions. At least someone might be interested.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. If we can help somebody, amen. And you're killing it.
Okay, so what we got here?
Research. This is how science and research is actually done.
Earthquakes are caused by the solar radiation from a giant distant sun, but how can they be caused by the sun in a flat Earth model?
Okay, this is my famous hashtag, know your myths.
Sorry, yeah, you were breaking up a little bit there, Brian.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm trying to speak clear here. In flat Earth theory, the sun is only a tiny little object that barely hovers over the surface of the Earth and is not a giant and is not distant. So how are we not all dead from the close proximity of the radiation from this tiny sun?
So again, he just took his great big sun in an infinite universe and just made it smaller and stuck it over top of his pizza that he was thinking about in the earlier question. He still has not grasped the concept of what it is we're talking about. He's still trying to muddle through his indoctrination. I mean, he's sort of seeing this vague outline of what the flat earth is, but he's still seeing it through the lens of the ball earth. So again, I don't know that he's ever going to come to it until he's genuinely ready to come to it. I mean, it's just like somebody getting sober. You know, you can hope they get sober all you want, but until they hit rock bottom, they're never going to come to flat earth, so to speak.
Here's my favorite one. Here's my favorite.
Well said.
Well, hold on. Have we covered the solar, the earthquake thing yet? Adam, did you want to chime in?
Well, only with, I have no idea how earthquakes occur on a flat earth. And if we're being perfectly and scientifically honest, we don't really, because we've only been 8 miles down, have any clue on a ball earth either, do we? And so for somebody so arrogantly to claim it's something to do with the sun, would that be gravity that's doing those things, pulling the tectonic plates, I assume? Can do that, but it can't move a tide. Okay, behind it, Maze.
No,
and you know my opinion too. Earthquake big enough, if they get the big one, it would knock our precious little angle off. We would die.
Oh, they love that one, yeah. But what I'd say is that this sun flares or whatever, or planet, moon, sun alignments causing earthquakes is absolutely ambiguous at the moment. No one has proved it. There's a challenge here to try and prove it. I used to be watching, what was it, the guy Observer, his videos down here somewhere. This guy.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, well, I used to think he was good.
BP Earthwatch, was it?
It was something or other, I can't remember. But I mean, to say that the sun causes earthquakes is an absolute and complete assumption. I mean, even for scientism. I mean, earthquakes are caused.
I was being sarcastic, mate.
Right, earthquakes are caused by tectonic plates moving. So we're told in the ball earth thing. So why this guy is assuming it's anything to do with the sun, even though it may well be something to do with the sun, but it would be far more likely to be something to do with a small close sun with huge electric potential than some 800,000 mile wide sun 93 million miles away. It just seems ridiculous to me.
Unless are they suggesting it's a gravitational effect?
Suspicious Observer was the guy. And yeah, I used to think he was fantastic. I'd watch him every single day, but now I just see that he's selling ball earth science. Pseudoscience. Sorry, carry on, Adam. That's my rant.
I have no problem with ball earth. Yeah, well, no. Well, I'm a bit. I obviously read the question and went, that's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in all of your questions. Yeah, because it's so based in what can only be described as religion, because there's no facts behind it, that to postulate that question and then go to flat earthers, you have no idea. Look, you can't even explain earthquakes. It's clearly the effect of the sun on tectonic plates. Has anyone measured it? Has anyone got a sample of a tectonic plate out of interest?
I don't think so.
I've got some china plates and some cheap plates and paper plates, but I've never seen a tectonic plate ever.
Well, what do we think earthquakes are caused by on flat Earth then?
That's a great idea. That's a great question, man. That is awesome. I think Josh was just going to say that.
Well, I was going to say some of the best arguments I've heard for the ball Earth have come from earthquake evidence. That being said, it's the P waves and the S waves that they're measuring and then running through a computer based on a spherical Earth model. I mean, that's another one that really has them convinced, because they're showing them the animation of the primary waves and then the bouncing back of the secondary waves. And they're saying, look, see, it's mapping out the Earth, not realizing that it's all being run through the computer model. But it was still an interesting research nonetheless, learning a little bit about P waves and S waves. But what causes them? It's a great question. I don't know. I don't know what causes them on a flat Earth, but here we are on a flat Earth, and we have earthquakes.
Well,
Why?
I'm happy to accept that things get hotter as you go down. Sorry, James.
And that's the beauty of it. That's the new frontier we're at. I mean, these are things. This is like everybody's dream, to actually do real science, to have a real shot at figuring out where we are without the bias of the system on our backs, for crying out loud. I think it's super positive that once we establish some major things, and I'm looking forward to that eclipse as well, but after all the fallout and after everything settles, think of the science that we're going to get to do, the real science, not the religion science.
Well, the
religion science that makes up math to fit what they need it to fit, because that's the language they talk. That's how their religion works. They write formulas, which is doctrine, which then fits to the problem, right? Where I just can't wait to actually pick up like what Adam did, make an experiment, and like, let's figure out what earthquakes are.
I can't wait for people to realize, to start looking at things with a mindset of it being a flat stationary Earth. You know, people like Miles Matheson and some of the brains of today. I can't wait until, or Ken Wheeler even, you know, until the penny drops, and then you wait for the next scientific revolution. It's going to sweep.
So were there any other questions that jumped out at anybody? I mean, these are getting a little wearisome.
Yeah, I think we had better luck with dry. That was even more substance.
I want to answer them all, but carry on.
I'm just far more interested in hearing Brian's flat Earth story. These questions.
Well, let's interject.
Go ahead.
No, let's lighten it up a bit with a bit of
in the earthquake thing, the Coriolis thing. I mean, I'm just trying to remember some of them offhand. A lot of it can all be answered with the electromagnetic sun and moon, and the way they react to each other, the way they react to the salt of the oceans, the way they react to the metals and the different elements that make up the Earth and these alleged tectonic plates. I mean, I think the craters on the moon are caused by electric sparks that have hit the moon and made those craters. I mean, we've talked about that as well. It pretty much all comes back to electromagnetic flat Earth, to me.
Yeah.
The actual mechanics will have to work out. So, you know, that'll be your next big one, Adam. John, get on that.
Well, let's hear a bit of Brian's story, and then, I mean, if you want to be quick and go through these questions, but I think, you know, some people might want to actually hear the questions and, I don't know, hear the answers.
I mean,
crickets.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. Just tell me mute. I'm so sorry.
Perfect timing, Adam.
I got a good one here.
All right,
I'm not used to coping with crickets, Brian. So apologies, mate. I'm going to mute now. Shut up. I'm so sorry.
It's quite okay. I understand. I'm having technical difficulties with my microphone myself. But I got a good one here that Ryan messaged me in my private inbox. I posted it on my wall, and it's about Lord of the Rings. I'm going to try and read it here. It says, as an example, have you ever watched Lord of the Rings? The movie had a scene where Gandalf and the hobbits were fleeing a giant Balrog made of fire and the whip. Gandalf and the hobbits were in a deep mine chasm, an underground cavern. Well, in real life, many places like that exist in the Earth today. Something is not just possible using a flat Earth model. I thought it was quite hilarious that he had to go to a Lord of the Rings analogy to try to explain his theory, when everybody on the flat Earth side is over here working like dogs, trying to do scientific research and trying to give some credibility to people that are working hard. And we got people like that bringing us that foolishness.
And he was, I think, referring to a hydrosphere and the way that the Earth would actually be an equalized ball of water. Is that what am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Right.
Can I be an arse then, guys? Sorry, I dropped out the call. Could you just recap, Josh? Because I'm struggling to hear Brian anyway, but could you just recap the point? Because
yeah, so sent him a message telling him about these deep holes in the earth, and that all over the earth there are these great big holes similar to the ones found in The Lord of the Rings when Gandalf had to fight the Balrog and fell down to become Gandalf the White. So he's basically saying that that type of situation exists where you can fall for days and somehow end up falling on. I don't know what the heck he's on about, but he's saying there.
That's easy then, isn't it? That's piece of piss, because that can happen on a flat realm. It cannot happen if you believe in a ball and gravity, because you get halfway and then you start falling the other way and you'll just end up being in the middle. Assuming, that would happen, there would be a point of no gravity where the pull is equivalent, and you end up, instead of going up and down relative, you end up going left and right, because the nearest pull of gravity, unless you're going straight through the center of the earth, ends up pulling you, when you get halfway down, it ends up pulling you left or right, depending on your relative position. So they're the sort of things that cannot happen on a ball, even with gravity. They're the only sort of things that can happen on a realm. And have a look at Lord of the Rings. It's a flat plane. Every bit of it's flat.
That's a great point. But there's a more fundamental flaw in this. Again, that it comes back to the foundations that he thinks we live, or we're saying that we live on a pizza. A flat disc floating through space, which is propaganda for the Flat Earth Society.
Crust, crust, not even a Chicago crust.
Exactly. Exactly. So on a stationary plane, we have no idea how deep it goes. There may well be chasms that you can fall for days in. There may well be all this sort of shit. It could be hollow. There's no problem with hollow Earth. There's no problem with aliens. It's all quite explainable. But if you think that the model is a thin crust pizza, then of course you're going to come out with questions that are just ludicrous. Sorry.
I've got one more thing there. This is every week, right? Every week we go, gets more pathetic, don't they? The ballers, they get more. And am I just hearing now that the validation for a ball Earth is Lord of the Rings?
Yeah,
the way that Gandalf the Grey falls down. Is that what I'm hearing?
To go.
Yep.
Like my vote, John, is to move on. Like we're now that we know the game plan, like there was no questions. This is all a farce. And it's a game for him, so I don't think we should play it.
There's one here that I did want to address.
I just enjoy the questions.
I had the same question here. It says in my research, he says, how on a flat Earth model would water drain counterclockwise in one hemisphere and clockwise in the other hemisphere if the Earth is flat?
Oh my God, it's fallacy. It's been proved 1,000 times. Just do it yourself.
This is my point. Because when you are genuine, when you have a genuine curiosity, you go find out. It's that simple. You're not going to post a question and expect an entire group of people to come and weigh in on your question because you don't want to take the time to go answer. That's not curiosity. You don't really want to know the answer to that question. You're just looking for some attention. When you have genuine curiosity, you shut your mouth. Wow, that was really good. You be quiet and you research. You go find out the question. Okay, well, is that true? Does water really drain only in one direction, in one hemisphere, and the other direction in the other? Is that true? And you'll go.
How many videos have you watched? I've watched at least 9 or 10 videos on the water draining just to get that in my head 2 years ago.
Yep. And that's what you have to do, because that's one of those things that I was indoctrinated with. I mean, I remember specifically my father telling me about it. And it's this proof of a spinning ball Earth because of the way the water drains in the different hemispheres. So that was one of the things I had to address coming to the flat Earth, was this rotation, this Coriolis, this spinning ball Earth. How do I come to terms with that? And I went and I researched because I had a genuine curiosity as to how that would work on a flat Earth. So I looked, and guess what? It works just fine. Shape your sink however you want. It'll go down whichever direction you want. I do it at work all the time. I'll drain the sink and watch it go one direction. I'll put my hand and swirl the water and watch it go down in the opposite direction. It's real freaking simple. It's all about the shape of the sink. It's all about a number of factors, but none of which can be proven to be the spin of the Earth.
Can you guys see my screen?
That was awesome,
Yeah.
Josh. Thank you.
Josh, you've just smashed the point there and exemplified the point that we all sit here like Rob's doing, like Rob's banging his head against the wall going, I know this model, I did this model. And they all kind of believe that we did understand basic physics at school. Yeah. But what they don't realize is that before we stick our head out there on YouTube or here, there and everywhere, we've done all of the basic science that they clearly haven't even been asked to do. Questioning. I remember that one. That's the lady at the equator who moves it 10 inches either side of the equator and then throws it in, and she gives it a little whiz either time, and you can see the magic trick that's going off. Do you know what I mean? And that's the point, Josh, you've exemplified, mate. We've done this. You guys, before you start arguing with us, do it yourself and then come to us with something that can benefit us all, not us just prove you wrong.
But Adam, if they do that, then they're not a baller anymore.
That's the consequence, but that's not my fault. I can't do that.
Homophobia. They're flatophobes. They're so scared of becoming another flat earther. They're going to rebel with every ounce of their energy against it, because I'll be damned, because they know deep down it's flat.
Yeah,
that was what I was telling Rob. That's
great stuff.
There's something telling them there's no way it's a ball, and they're fighting it.
I've seen this on the equator. I've seen this done, and it was, I walked away going, oh, wow, yeah, that's really, really cool. How the hell does that do it? Just a couple of meters north of the equator, a couple of meters south. It's had to be so accurate and everything. And, yeah, I fell for a hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I was only 20, but there you go. But for our friend Ryan, here, assume that he agrees with every single thing the Mythbusters cretins say. Sorry, I shouldn't be calling them names, should I? But this is the official response from the Mythbusters, mainstream clowns. Another name, look at that. The truth is that while the Coriolis effect is real on a macroscopic scale, as with hurricanes, which it's not actually, and I can show that if you want, it's very weak on a small scale, as in a sink or toilet bowl. Initial conditions, especially the direction of the water entering the basin, are more significant than the Coriolis effect and can easily overcome it in most cases. So Mythbusters won't even put their name to this one. So that shows your level of research once again.
So I know we really want to address all these questions because it's sort of a good idea, because it'll help other people sort of see the thought process that it's going to take to get through to some of this research. We are a little bit pressed for time. I know Paul on the plane is a busy guy, so he was sort of having to schedule his stuff around us. So I want to make sure we
break them all up, mate. We don't have to do these all in one go. Let's hear from everyone else and do Paul on the plane. Get Paul on the plane on now.
Right. You know what, Josh? What's wrong? Let's save the rest of the questions, and once a week let's have a chuckle slot. Yeah.
Fine by me.
And save one a week.
Sounds great. Let's do that for sure.
No, when you're feeling low, understand the level of the intellect that you're actually arguing with is so entrenched in religious belief that they stopped being scientists many years ago. Let's save one question a week, mate. It's good fun in my book, because all we've demonstrated tonight is that, frankly, the people we're arguing with are the people we used to be before we opened our eyes and started to investigate. Yeah, and before we were prepared to honestly investigate, not only be prepared to entrench our own previously held views.
All I'd say is I'd like to, throughout this evening, I'd like to tackle each of those questions as quickly as possible, or as in-depth, or whatever as possible, but not necessarily all in the same go, only because I've done some of the research, and if I don't get it out now, it's just gone.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I really want to hear what you have to say on this stuff. So just do me a favor and either pop in with one of them or remind me that we're going to need to do it, because I really want to hear from Brian and hear his story and how he came to Flat Earth. And we are already coming up to an hour soon. So
yeah, I do too. I want to hear from Paul as well. Maybe Paul can answer some of these questions too. Yep, let's crack on then. Something different.
Is that a promise? Me and John will be quiet then.
I've muted already.
Perfect. Awesome. So Brian, let's talk a little bit about you. I would love to hear how you came to Flat Earth, where you came from, sort of the conspiracies, or if any that you were into before, and some of the ones you may have found after, just things like that.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh, that is so much better. I love it.
Awesome. I changed computers, so hopefully this works out better. So my Flat Earth story, well, it goes back maybe about 3.5 years, I would say. I'm a Christian man. I'll just start off with that. I stand on the Word of God. So a lot of my Flat Earth views come from the Bible. Now, I don't necessarily try to use the Bible to prove Flat Earth, because I know a lot of atheists and stuff that don't like that. But anyways, so we'll get that straightened out. I used to listen to a fellow named Steven Anderson, and he's quite popular on YouTube amongst the Christian crowd, popular amongst some, not so popular amongst others. But he had some truths. And so I tuned in every week. And one week he had brought up in a sermon, he said something about flat earthers, and he called them idiots or something like that. And I thought, what did he just say? Like, flat earth, really? There's people out there that believe in the flat earth. And so I started out with the flat earth, totally going into it to debunk it. Much like Ryan's doing. I was angry. I couldn't believe that people out there actually believed in this foolishness. And over time, I investigated one thing after another. Basically, everything that's in Ryan's post, I investigated myself, me and my wife, thoroughly. And so we have the answers. We just choose not to waste our time typing them out to people that are going to, how do you say, you don't give your pearls to swine, right? So anyways, after a couple months of doing this research, I kind of stepped away from the flat earth because I noticed a whole lot of drama was going on within the flat earth world, and I didn't really want anything to do with it. So I just kind of sat back and researched, and I watched the people that were doing actual, good, productive videos on flat earth, like Mr. Thrive and Survive, and a couple other people. I had a list wrote down, but there's so many flat earthers out there that are actually just sticking to the point, and I like that. Mm-hmm. And so I did that for a few months, and then I just had an awakening, and I said, one morning I woke up and I said, you know what? The Earth's flat. There's no denying it. And I lived my day from that day forward with the thought that I now live on a stationary plane. And so I've been just trying to build up YouTube channel and my Facebook and trying to get this truth out there the best I can. I go out in the public and I try to talk to everybody I can about it. I at least try to drop hints, to try to start discussions. I find this topic very exciting. And I'm thoroughly enjoying your guys' discussion on Ryan D. Hall's post, because I think this is needed. A lot of these people, these ballers, are coming at us with all this nonsense, and they're not actually ready to sit back and listen to an answer. So my flat earth story is that I started out to debunk it, and I couldn't. And it just came to the point where I had to accept it. And I'm at that point now. I 100% believe the earth is flat. So that's my story.
Brilliant.
Tried to keep it short and quick.
Wow, that surely was. That's awesome. So what I want you to do is go ahead and plug your YouTube channel, for the simple reason that I love the name. So go ahead and do it, because I say it inside my head like 5 times a day. I love it.
Well, my YouTube channel is called The Flat Earth Truth Shall Set You Free. And me and my wife also homeschool. And so we also have a homeschooling channel called Homeschool Vlogs. And we're actually going to do a bunch of home projects on probably both channels that we got from another YouTuber who is going through projects you can do, backyard science that you can do. And so I think we're going to try and get all the materials to do those projects on A Flat Earth Truth Shall Set You Free and our homeschool vlog channel.
Right on. Are you Canadian, Brian?
Yeah, sure am. Yeah,
I know that, my friend.
He said a boot.
A boot. What's your homeschool channel? Sorry, I missed that.
It's called Homeschool Vlogs.
Brilliant. Cheers.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, by the way.
Well, it's time we get together and do some science, right? It's time we stop looking so. I mean, I surf a lot of the groups on Facebook, and I see a lot of them make us look like fools, right? Because we get arguing and we get insulting, and I would like to just produce some flat Earth experiments that prove it one way or another, not just for them, but also for me and for my family, right? Because I got 5 kids, and I want to raise my kids up in the truth, and I don't want to go on YouTube and preach lies. You know what I mean? So
Fantastic.
I'm trying to keep it truthful as I can.
Yep, I'm with
Good
you.
on you. Good on you, man.
Brian, did you get a chance to go through some of our archives and see some of our other stuff that we've done?
Yeah, I've been slowly trying to watch bits and pieces here and there. I've been fixing my van for the last few days since I found out I was coming on the show, so I've been really, really busy. But yeah, I've been going through your videos on YouTube. Yeah.
Well, it just dawned on me what a perfect combination sort of this is, because with a very small investment, with a very simple gyroscope, or with a box of Legos and some thermometers, I mean, we've set up experiments where we've done them.
Yeah.
So easy then to go ahead and take those and run.
Exactly.
How your kids can improve them and what they would do differently, and how might you do this to prove a ball, or how might you do this to prove that it's sunlight, or whatever it is. I mean, there's all sorts of great stuff you can do with minimal.
Coming up too this summer on the lake, the Bedford.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Josh. And yeah, if you ever want to use any of my gyroscope videos or whatever, then absolutely feel free. Stick it on your homeschooling vlog, everything. The gyroscope proves everything.
You can't buy them now, though, remember? They're all sold out.
Well, the video's there. The video evidence is there.
Hey, thank you. The number one thing I like about homeschooling is me and my wife actually have the choice. We can teach the best of both worlds, right? Like we're no longer globe believers, but I don't believe in withholding any information from my kids at all. So we're able to show them the ball, and we're able to show them the flat Earth theory, and we're able to let them decide. And we've actually done that with our oldest daughter, and she's a flat earther through and through, man. She's right up there beside me, wanting to make videos. And I mean, that's what we need to do, see, because the elites that are teaching this ball Earth theory, they're after our children.
Oh, yeah.
Understand that? And everybody needs to know that. And so we need to get it in our children's head that there's so much knowledge out there on the internet that they better get into it, and they better get at it, and they better start researching before it's gone, because they're shutting people like us down big time.
Absolutely fantastic.
They've been after our kids since the old days in the scriptures. You know it. It's
so,
the same game.
Brian, can I ask what age are your 5 kids from to?
My youngest is
8, 6, 5, 4, and 3.
So there you go.
Good man. So, you know your own kid's age. It's great. But 8 is your eldest.
I know my kid's age. She knows it better.
That's just proof, like with all of us guys, that we're all here doing shit, but the real power behind all of our families ain't us.
Say again?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the truth. You just heard the truth come in.
Well, it's Adam's got young children, I've got young children, and we're all doing our bit as well. Homeschooling is top respect to you guys for that. But I like to see it as my kids are in state school. They go and learn the indoctrination, then they come home, tell me, and then we go and learn the actual proof. So I'm sort of the same, I want them to know the heliocentric ball Earth sun worshipping model inside out. Otherwise they can't they can't reason or ration it out themselves without knowing the other side of it. It's just like Ryan Hall and his questions. How can you possibly ask the right questions if you don't understand the fundamentals of what they're teaching? So yeah, hats off to you both.
Well, you're blessed. Your children are blessed to have somebody like you to actually present them with the truth when they get home, to unindoctrinate them after they have been indoctrinated. It's not really that I worry about. It's the peer pressure from the other kids and the teachers, That's my number one concern. It's because we know how these ball earthers think. It's you believe my way or no way at all, right? So, but no, I commend you for that, because a lot of parents just leave their kids to the daycare and to the public system, and they walk away.
Well, Brian, I mean, what were you like when you were 10? I mean, I don't know about you, but me, I've never ever had a problem being on the fringe or being slightly, not thinking the norm. And I think this probably comes through, to where we are now. It's never been a problem for me. I mean, the fad of football when I was 10. Everyone had football shirts and collected the football stickers and this, that, and the other, and I just declared that I hated football. And everyone sort of looked at me like I'd grown two heads. But 6 months later, there was sort of 10 or 12 other kids that were like, yeah, actually football, yeah, I'm not into it either. And yeah, I know that goes against you, Adam, and Rob, and whoever else likes football. But
no, but seriously, John, you do one thing, and I think Brian's describing another thing there in terms of teaching our children, and I kind of sit in the middle. I don't think I'm as militant as you would be in first hearing what your children have learned and sitting down and correcting them, but I do engage with them, and the more important thing I've done with my kids is to say, whatever dad's learning, he's learning. Okay, whatever you're being taught at school isn't necessarily the truth, but as your dad, I want you to learn that and be able to recite it back. Doesn't mean it's true, but it's going to be very useful in the society in which we live in that you're able to recite that back. However, make sure you listen to your dad. And that's kind of the situation where I sit.
No, I agree. I'm not correcting my kids at all. I mean, they've sat through me through the gyroscope experiments, through the moonlight experiments, through seeing the Isle of Portland from Seaton 30 miles across the sea experiments. They're not being corrected, but they are being shown scientific method gathered information that they did themselves. To sort of corroborate what they think the Earth is. I remember going and walking the fields with them and just sort of stopping and saying, right, so which one of you thinks we're spinning at 700 miles an hour then? And they're like, no, don't be silly. I said, okay, look around you. Which one of you thinks we're on a ball? And they're like, yeah, we're on a ball. I'm like, why do you think you're on a ball? And they're like, I don't know. No, we're probably not on a ball. I don't know. And, just little things like that. It's just interesting to be able to disprove what they're being taught with everyday experiments. And I think Brian's well on the way with the homeschooling blog stuff. That's an awesome idea.
And this is why I love the name of his YouTube channel so much, because it really will set you free. It's that indoctrination, that belief of this intermediary authority that needs to come in, step in on your behalf and take responsibility for you, the state, whatever it is, it's going to come in and do this. And once you come to terms with sort of what the flat earth really is and how to get there, that you will be set free in the end. You're not going to be relying on all these false nannies that are here trying to do what is, in quotes, best in your best interest.
Right.
You actually get set free, and it's amazing. So we're about to take a break here, Brian. I really loved having you on, and I hope we can have you back on, you and your wife both, because I talk about your homeschooling vlog channel some more. So yeah, let's come up, take this break. Everybody just go ahead and subscribe to both of their channels, The Flat Earth Truth Shall Set You Free and Homeschooling Vlog. Yeah, I think that is so super exciting, because the Flat Earth will certainly set you free. Brian, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys, because I'm getting kind of busy here, so I might not be able to tune in for the second half, but I hope I can. So if I don't, thank you for having me on, and keep it real by preaching the truth, guys. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And thanks for coming on. Good luck with your van. And we really would love to have you both back on sometime when you have a little bit more time to come in and totally hash all this out.
Yeah, great to
Most
meet you, Brian.
definitely.
So yeah, coming
Thanks,
up an hour.
guys.
Absolutely, anytime. Thanks, Brian. Be good.
That's fine. Take care, mate.
That is so great. So yeah, coming up in hour 2, we're going to have Paul on the plane. He started a new video series with a gentleman named Archer Sage. So we're going to have him on to talk about that. So that being said, I think it's time for our weekly gravity break. So we're going to go grab some coffee. We are IronRealmMedia. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up if you like us. Give us a thumbs down if you don't. I don't care. We're going to be right back. This is Flat Earth Friday, FRINGE-CAST. got kind of intense. I don't need all that. That's a little much for me. Turn that off. Great. Awesome. Welcome back. That was kind of a short break. But I just ran upstairs, grabbed coffee, ran back down real quick. Put that on, but maybe I shouldn't have. That's a bit obnoxious.
It was all right.
I'm not necessarily.
That was an interesting segment, guys. That previously, I really enjoyed that. That's a brave man that's coming out there doing that with his kids and doing all that stuff. I thought, respect to Brian. I didn't know who we were meeting tonight, but I thought that was a thoroughly progressive bloke we've just chatted with, guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think really good. I'm going to have to go look at his homeschooling vlogs and that. Right into that.
So while we're waiting for Paul on the plane to join us, I mentioned at the start of the show that we've been doing this for a year. Sucks Rob couldn't still be with us to join, but yeah, that is crazy.
One whole orbit.
One whole orbit. That's right. We were trying to figure out if we should call it a season or what we should do.
An orbit. I love it. That's perfect.
It's the evolution revolution.
Every Friday, wasn't it? Every Friday for a year. Like you say, I don't think anyone else has done that. Possibly.
Congratulations, boys.
Well,
yes, sir. Well done, gentlemen.
Have they been every Friday? Didn't we used to do a different day?
No, every Friday.
I'm not 100%.
No idea.
I don't want to be big.
Could have been a Wednesday.
I don't think Globusters aren't made even one Friday. On a Sunday, but at least I think that's impressive, guys. I mean, I'm just so pleased to have been with you for 3/4 of that time. Maybe a bit more, but it's It's impressive what you've achieved,
I think you've been here since the start, haven't you? Since we started doing Fridays regularly. I don't know how long ago that was, but I can't believe we were even doing this a year ago, man.
John, it's me and you. It was best part of 2 years ago when we first met, and we were just arguing via Gerran. I think we met via Gerranism and back in the day.
Curvature
and we hooked up from there. Yeah, curvature maths indeed, weren't it? It was with Cesar in Germany, and I was doing that sort of stuff. And yeah, that's a long time ago, bro.
I see we're joined by Paul on the plate. Hello, bud.
Ah, good.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Great.
Yes,
great.
sir. Welcome.
Sorry, I'm a little mobile today, so hopefully there's not a lot of background noise.
Nope, you sound really good.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, Paul, you've got a standing invitation. Whenever you want to come, tell us to send you. You can expect one.
I really, really appreciate that. I've caught a little bit of the show so far today, and it was timely, really, with hearing Brian there and his wife and that homeschooling blog channel. I immediately subscribed to that. I've got a 1-year-old. My wife and I are planning on homeschooling, so I mean, I'm going to start wanting to build a library of projects and curriculums and all of that sort of thing. And so just really, really cool to hear his story and what he and his wife are doing. That's
brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, I totally agree as well. I wish I had this when my kids were 1 or 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just totally interject here, guys, and maybe just give it a big heads up to Brian and just put a shout out that we're all discussing this sort of stuff. I'm a dad, you're a dad, Paul, John's a dad, and we all have great investiture in our children. And we all invest in people we've never even met to educate our children in a number of topics. And I think if we ever looked at a flat earth project that's outside of disproving the globe or proving the flat plane, that we looked at ways of topics that we could put online to educate our children. You know, I'm quite happy in my life. I've got my wife who's got an English degree. I've got chemistry, physics, maths, biology that I can teach my kids. But I don't think necessarily everybody is as lucky out there that we have the same mix in our families. History, I'm screwed on, or you know what I mean. But but maybe that's something that, as we start to look moving forward, it's something we could do to support each other.
I think that's a great idea.
Start to, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The community, I think, you know, we all have our specialties, and we've been hearing this, I think, from some other prominent content creators that, you know, hey, we're all good at something and horrible at others. And, you know, in the community, though, there's probably somebody that could provide some help in whatever that is, whatever that area is. And that's why, you know, it's so cool what we can do, and we can keep in touch, and we can talk to each other. We can, you know, a safe place to just go and ask questions. And I think that's what's building. I don't think there's any doubt
it definitely
that's
is.
what's building in the community.
I met up with buddy D Marble at the meetup in Oregon, and just that, me and face to face with people who are out there doing this. The crew there in Oregon are just, man, they have drive. They're doing the big billboard during the eclipse. It's great to get out there with real people and see that, you know, it's not just a bunch of morons, idiotic people who just woke up with some crazy idea and have decided to dispense with all the education we all had growing up, you know. Hopefully we can enhance what we were taught, dispense with some of the indoctrination, and help our children move forward with actual knowledge.
Yeah, totally agree.
Precisely.
I feel a little left out. I'm the only one without kids, I think, on the panel.
Go get
you gotta get yourself some kids.
I've been some you can have. I've been through a battle, but yeah, we're hoping. And Paul, it's so good to have you back, man. How are you, brother?
Thanks. Great. Just been super busy. I guess, Scott. I mean, I launched another business. You know, we've had you know, wedding anniversaries, birthdays, summer vacations. We've been traveling, and you know, it's just. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that, you know, that's the way I like it. But you know, just got to try and prioritize. So I've been great. I've been doing great. Family's great. How are you guys all doing? Everybody good?
You got massive energy levels there, Paul. You really have. I can only guess that you don't smoke weed.
I actually don't. And I live in the state of Washington, where it's very prevalent. You can get it in most cities now. You can just walk in and get it within a certain amount.
Yeah,
but
well, it was the same with D Marble. Though I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just saying, you know, to get up and go.
I'm not having that.
I'm just disagreeing, though, because, you know, it doesn't mean just because you smoke doesn't mean your energy's gone, John.
Josh Corey, where are you? What did you say to me? I'm not admitting to shit, by the way. I'm a qualified pharmacist. Josh Corey, what did you say to me the other day? You don't stop, Meakin. When he caught me secretly building a rockery, because I was a bit bored one afternoon, so I'd leveled an area and started building a rockery. You don't stop, Meakin. John, I don't think the two have any scientific relevance. Motivation is motivation. If I've had a spliff, I don't sit on my arse unless I'm on air, mate. Yeah?
Yeah, saying that. I'm being harsh. I'm being harsh. You know, saying that, I've had a week. I've had a week alone in the house without the wife, without the children, and I could have sat there and watched, you know, endless repeats of The Matrix and all sorts of other stuff. But no, I've been literally hoovering the house top to bottom. I was painting the toilet earlier today. I was cleaning the doors. So yeah, I've been a bit harsh.
Was that with or without the medication?
With always.
I just thought I'd clarify that for the listener.
So basically, what you've admitted, John, is that kids that slow you down, not anything else.
You may have just hit the nail on the head there. Anyway, Paul, your photo analysis series was absolutely awesome. Yeah, really enjoying that. Bringing this back on track.
Cool. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm looking for some feedback from you guys if you've had a chance to watch. We've got a total of 4 videos out. I just uploaded episode 3. So we did an intro video where we just kind of walked through and talked a little bit about the tools that we use, which is really cool in the fact that they are free to download online. Anybody could use them. Anybody can download them. And one of them is web-based. So you just point your web browser to that page, and you can pull in photos and then start using all of these, all of these functions that these tools have. So that's really what I think is the big benefit. And we try and remind folks that, hey, you know what? Don't take our word for it. We're kind of showing you how we've done it, but do it yourself. Pull some photos in. Pull some photos in that you've taken that are unmanipulated, unedited, and play with some of these levels, see how they react, how light bounces off things, and how edges work, and the noise in the photos that you get, if it's a dark background or shadows, and just see how it works in reality. And then go download some of these photos that we're given that we're told that are real, and whether you can say they're composites or not, we'll talk about that in a minute. But the point is that when you pull in these other photos from these space agencies, namely NASA, that we've been, that we're starting with, and you start doing the same analysis, you're going to find some major inconsistencies and some really weird stuff that's going on with these photos. And that's really the whole point. And then when you start to, and this is kind of where this thing's going to go from here, which is what I'm super excited about. We kind of touched on it in episode 2. You're going to start seeing a lot of overlap between these different images that we're getting from this satellite and this satellite. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing all this together to show you that there's really just one system they're using to produce all of these different images from all these different distances, from all these different satellites. We're going to show that there's some common denominators, which are very, very interesting. So I can't wait for the reveal. We're kind of be building towards that.
What did you come up with the series out of necessity, Paul? Like, how did you guys come up with the idea of the series that you're promoting? It's awesome.
Well, if you guys, and I don't know if you saw some of the work that Archer Sage was doing beforehand. So he's really the brains behind this, because he's got the photography background, and he's got a good, what I think is a real deep understanding of photography and how cameras work, and lighting, and noise, and focal length, and aperture, and all of these different components that comes to capturing images. And then he started to produce some content, and he's got some reasons that he had to kind of shut some things down, and decided not to produce content on YouTube anymore, and that sort of thing. But I reached out to him when I saw that he had stopped doing that, and I said, hey man, what's going on? And I said, hey, I would, teach me. I think this work is so important, and I think it's such a, it's just, the awareness needs to be out there for folks that are, because I think that's one of the reasons. I'm taking some of my personal views here, but one of the reasons that maybe some folks, don't even go down that path of the truth is because they're just like, well, we got pictures from space. I don't need anything else. So I think if we really spend some time analyzing these pictures that we're given, we can maybe get some folks to say, okay, I see there's some problems there. That gives me enough motivation to maybe look deeper. And that's what our hope is, as they go in their search for the truth. And so Archer and I, when we were talking about this, and I basically said, hey man, I want to continue the work. Will you help me in the background when you have time? Can you kind of help me with some of this stuff and catch me up and show me with some of the work? And I want to build on that. And he was gracious enough to agree to do that. So we decided to partner together, and we're on the phone or on Skype, here and there as our schedules allow, and I'm taking notes. And I'm learning, and I'm doing
awesome.
this, and then turn around and kind of producing some of this content. So I want to make sure that he gets the credit, because he's the backbone of this, and we're just kind of using my channel as kind of the platform for that.
Cool.
So that's kind of where we're at.
Good on you, man.
Are you running forward with it then now, Paul? Because I've watched it, and you guys, Archer Sage, we've all watched for years and that. So you're now gonna take this on? Are you looking for help, or is this something you're going to smash on your own because you've got some great ideas? Or has he disappeared, Archer Sage? Sorry, excuse me. Just a bit of clarity on that, because it was something I was looking at, and I'd read your statements, and it was just a bit more. Is he okay?
Yeah. No, everything is great. I think, what he told me was that, with the amount of time and some of this other stuff that he's going on, he's a younger guy than me, and he's just got a lot going on. And so when I approached him and, I said, hey, I think your work is important. And I, if you're willing to spend the time with me, I'd love to continue it. And we talked for a while, and he agreed that, hey, the work's important, and there's a lot of great stuff we can learn and work that we can do, but he just didn't have the time to produce the videos, because they are. I mean, I've probably put in 100 hours already between learning and just producing the handful of videos that we've done so far. It's just a lot of work. And, because we're going through pages and pages and pages of videos. There's just a ton of stuff that we're getting spoon-fed, and so there's a lot of stuff to go through, and you gotta bring it all together in just a couple of minutes for this idea and a couple of minutes for this idea, to produce something that's I think worthwhile or relevant. So he's fine. Like I said, we talk occasionally, we chat here and there, and once in a while he'll ping me and say, oh my gosh, look at this, what I found. And then, like, okay, we got to talk about that. And that's just how it's evolved.
Respect. No, genuinely, because, and the only reason I asked it like that, Paul, was, excuse me, Archer Sage's stuff was deep. It was intelligent, it was well thought out, and it was thorough in the way it was dealing with stuff. So, respect, fella, for you to pick that up and run with that sort of stuff, because it's an assurity that the detail you're going into is going to be quality as well. So I look forward to the I've not had chance, mate. I've seen 1, 2, 3 come in the since I've been leaving for holiday and getting over here. So I've got a beach day on Sunday, so you know what I'm watching.
Right.
It's
great work, Paul.
I've got big shoes to fill. I don't think, and I watched, after we hooked up and we talked a little bit, I went back and watched some of his earlier stuff that some people had mirrored some stuff because his channel was gone, but there were some mirrors out there, and he did some stuff with Glowbusters, and I watched as much as I could, and that's what I saw. I was like, wow, I mean, I'm no Archer Sage. I'm not, I don't have the way that he presented it was difficult. I've tried to emulate that in what I do, and it takes me a lot more words, I'm finding, to get my point across. I'm finding that what he was able to do, and it seemed like 25% of the words. So mine are probably going to be just more long and drawn out, because I take a long time sometimes to make a point, and I probably repeat myself, and I probably show more examples than I need to drive a point home, but that's just the way my brain works. So you'll have to bear with me. I'm no Archer Sage, but I'm hoping that the
Paul,
themes
I know
are
the feeling.
relevant.
However you speak, bruv, you will appeal to people that understand and would speak like you. And the way I speak is very different, and to John and everybody else on the panel. And hopefully we all appeal to people of different sets. Do you know what I mean? But respect, bruv, because if you're, and that's what I wanted to hear, that you are taking it on and you're moving it on. And like I say, I've not watched the other vids, but I'm looking forward to it. And it's not going to be the Archer Sage show. It's going to be Paul on the plane doing the things that Archer Sage was looking at. And that, to me, excites me. It's not an excuse. It's Paul's doing it now, and he's looking at this from his perspective, not Archer's perspective.
I think they're excellent. I've been watching them today, and I've learnt an awful lot about image analysis, and the thing about the shadows, showing the noise levels, and then seeing these block black outlines around the shadows. It's just amazing, and I just can't help thinking, why on earth can they not just set up a mock moon, as we know they've got, and just take ordinary photos? Why do they have to dick about with everything?
That question I'm not going to be able to answer the
No.
why. Because I think about that. I think about that all the time now, having learned what I've learned and what I've already produced and the stuff that we're planning. And it just is. I don't know if you guys just a quick plug on episode 2. What we found was the blue marble, right? Everybody knows the blue marble. And I think it was the Next Generation series that was released in June of 2004. Rob Simon was involved. We've seen that, and we are told that the blue marble image there, the model that they created in 2004 was from the Terra satellite and the MODIS camera. It wasn't a camera, but it's like it's a device that receives signals. It's called the MODIS, the spectrometer. Yeah, and the satellite was 438 miles above the Earth, allegedly, and then it does its orbit, and they have these strips of data, and you've seen that in a lot of the videos that showed, hey, there's a gap in there, and they had to kind of paint it in, and then they had to put the clouds back in, and they had to simulate the atmosphere, and they built this model. It was all in 2004, and it was from images from a satellite that was 438 miles away. Okay, so that's 2004. We fast forward to 2010, and the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, this LRO that's launched and is now orbiting the moon and taking pictures of the moon's surface and analyzing it, every once in a while gets this shot of the Earth as there's an Earthrise. Now, it experiences like 12 Earthrises a day based on its orbit. However, it's always pointed at the lunar surface. But occasionally, and what they say is they point it at the Earth to calibrate it for their cameras, and occasionally we'll get an image of Earth. So they sent this what's called an Earth from the Moon image, and it was in June of 2010. So you pull that image into your software program, your photo program, and then you take the blue marble that they released in 2004, and you lay them right on top of each other, and you use your transparency and you slide it back and forth, and the images are an exact match. Precisely the same. Precisely. So we've got images taken from an image built from strip data from 438 miles away in 2004, and it creates a mirror image. Yeah, and it creates a mirror image from a shot from 239,000 miles away 6 years later, and it's exactly the same.
Anyone who hasn't seen this video needs to go and watch it. It's very, very good.
It's really thorough. It explains all this in very high detail. I mean, the thing is, though, Paul, it's probably Photoshop, not fake Photoshop, because it has to be.
Go on, Adam.
Yeah, so that one kind of blew me away when we found that and we started doing it. And there's a lot more issues like that we're going to find, and we're going to be going on from, we kind of just wrapped up the LRO series now, which is this satellite that been up there like 7 or 8 years now. We've got a couple of Earth images. This is episode 3. We just analyzed the pictures of the moon, and what we're moving on to now is supposed
to stay in orbit. Originally, in your video, you tell us how long was it supposed to stay?
Yeah, well, I went back and did some reading on it, and it was launched in 2009, and it was supposed to be up there for a year, and then the potential to extend it for up to, I think, 3 more years. So here we are 8 years now.
8 years.
And it's supposedly still there.
Go NASA.
So that fuel tank is bottomless.
Amazing
some
stuff.
Wicked batteries, isn't there?
So now we're moving on to the Discover satellite. So obviously the images from the LRO is 239,000 miles away. So now we're moving to the NOAA, the National Oceanographic, whatever that is, that operates this Discover satellite, and it's got this amazing camera called the Epic camera, and it's taking and studying the Earth from 1 million miles away. This has to do with the, that moon, passing in front of the Earth, that animation. That's from the Discover and Epic camera. So we've got a handful of videos that we are going to be producing and releasing now, analyzing those pictures. That's where we're going next.
Paul, where did who was behind the LRO? Was it NASA or another agency?
I believe it's NASA. Yeah,
right.
I think the stuff that I watched was the Goddard Space Center in.
So I can't wait until you analyze some, JAXA or RASA or whatever footage as well.
Yeah, we are going to be expanding to some of the other space agencies. That's down the road a little bit. They've got their own issues. I don't want to spoil any of it yet, but we are going to be touching on those as well. There's just a ton with NASA and a lot to go through, and they all kind of tie back. So we're kind of building to, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to kind of build towards a reveal where we kind of tie all this together, and that's what we're going to do with the Discover. We're going to be able to see that the Discover, which was just launched in 2015, has a lot of overlap with the LRO, and which is very interesting.
Brilliant. Look forward to that. But as always, anyone can do this for themselves. So I don't want to pee on your bonfire or anything.
No, and we're clear on that. In every video in the description, I've got links to all the tools and where the images that we captured, where we downloaded them from. Go. If you don't believe me, go try it yourself. That's the whole point.
#test it. Love it.
Yep. So anyway, we're really, really excited about this, and I hope it catches on. I really think it's important, and I think it's really good for folks that maybe are stumbling about or hesitating about maybe looking into and going on a truth journey because of the stuff they're seeing. But I think if we could shed some doubt on some of this stuff that we're getting from these space agencies, hoping it pushes people over the edge, so to speak, to go on that journey that we've all done.
It's a bit more than doubt, I would say. It's catastrophic evidence.
Incredulability.
I think, and I think I made the mention in episode 2. If these images were brought into as evidence in a court of law, the same analysis would be done, and they're going to find boxes around the Earth and evidence of it being pasted onto a black background and no noise.
NASA would be thrown out of the courtroom as an unreliable witness straight away. Sorry, Adam.
Yeah. Paul, was it you that stated the African court cases with this? I've read that this week. So there's been some African court cases where people have been talking about satellite images in a court of law, and in some, that's bound to be British-based law, isn't it, in some bullshit way, which is disappointing because it means law of the sea. But even in those shonky circumstances of a legal court, they've been talking about satellite images, and within this court, I don't know which African country it is that I genuinely thought it was you, Paul, but they've thrown it out of court that image is not a real image, and therefore it can't be used in a court of law. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh, no, yeah. If you can find the link for that story or whatever, please send it.
I thought it was you, bro.
I'd love to catch up. No,
but also that's right. They've had court cases.
I'll find it and I'll send it you.
They've had court cases that have thrown out carbon dating, that have thrown out DNA, that have thrown out fingerprints. They've had court cases, that have chucked all this stuff out.
Yeah. That's the whole point. This stuff is, there's enough problems that you can look at these images and run it through these tools, and if you're honest with yourself, you're gonna come to the conclusion that these are heavily manipulated. There's a lot of post-production done, and the point I made in that second episode was, look, we're finding all this evidence of the photos being manipulated. What true scientific value do they hold for us for humanity? If they're all manipulated, let's say they are even real. Let's say at some level there's raw images out there and these are real. Why what we are presented with has to be so doctored? Because in my opinion, then the versions that we're getting hold no scientific value. Because I thought science was the search for truth. Why aren't we, especially as the taxpayers, funding these damn things?
We're not getting anything out of the knowledge they're giving us because it's not real. Because real knowledge leads to truth and peace, and they don't give us that. And that's
this is all, and the conclusion I've come to, and I hope that others do, is that what we are being provided by the space agencies is space art. That's it. It's art.
Picture or painting.
Indeed. Right.
It is art because it has to be.
Because it has to be.
So that's it.
Well, you definitely have presented these well. The videos are detailed, but they don't go on too long. I think that the time you set for them is pretty good. I mean, great job, man. Keep going. I can't wait for the next series for sure.
Thanks. Look forward to it. I'm really, really enjoying it, and hopefully we'll keep turning heads. So thanks for letting me come on and talk about it. I really appreciate it.
Paul, how can people get in touch with you? What's your YouTube channel, your Twitter address?
YouTube, Paul on the Plane, and Twitter, it's Flat Folks, ITSFLATFOLKS. So yeah, hit me up. Best way to reach me, and the channel's been, and I'm tickled. It's been getting a lot of subs and a lot of comments. I haven't been able to keep up with the comments, and both good and bad. But the best way to reach me is to send me an email, paulontheplane@gmail.com, and I promise to reply.
There you go. Brilliant.
Nice.
Love it.
Well, while we're giving you plugs, Paul, you got something else coming up tomorrow, don't you?
Yeah. Josh, I'll kick it over to you. What's coming up tomorrow?
That's right. Tomorrow we're going to have Paul on the Plane is going to join Billy Ray Valentine and I on the Infinite Fringe podcast on the Truth Frequency Network, which can be heard on TFR Live, iHeartRadio, all sorts of different places. But
nice.
Yeah, BRV saw him on our show a couple weeks ago and said, you know what? I want to have him on. So I tried to make that happen, and we're going to have Paul on the Plane on tomorrow. So stay tuned to TFR. Check the show schedule. I think it's 1 p.m. on Saturdays, and it's only an hour show, so it goes by really fast. So you got to be sure you catch it.
Billy Ray's a great guy.
I look forward to it. So thanks for putting me in touch.
Oh, awesome. Happy to do it. You're doing some really good stuff. The more I can promote other excellent flat earthers, the better. That's how we're going to make this paradigm shift, is together.
That's right. Hey guys, I'm going to run. So hopefully you'll catch the rest of the show here. I'm heading to the grocery store. So thanks for letting me come on, and keep it flat.
Anytime, brother. Keep it flat.
Take it easy.
Thank
Paul.
you.
Catch up with you soon.
All right. Take
Keep
care,
it flat,
guys.
bro. Bye.
Thanks.
God bless, Paul. We must chat soon. We've got so much I need to talk to you about. Paths of the Sun, and I've took a shed load of readings, bruv. As I suggested with the GPS and also the Bubble Level app, and I've filmed it for 3 or 4 8-minute periods. So in the next few weeks, I'm going to. Oh, has he gone? Well, he'll be listening, so it's fine.
You're so mean, John.
Oh, I know.
The level of my excitement there, you shattered me, John. I'm broken inside. But if Paul's listening, this was some of the stuff that when Paul was doing the accelerometer experiments, there was some of the things that me, John, and Paul chatted about privately. What I've managed to do with on the plane over to Italy is take a number of readings. My phone will only do 8 minutes, so I've got 3 or 4 8-minute slots where actually one of the guys next to me had nodded off, and he says, your camera stopped recording, mate. Your camera stopped recording. So there might be a small gap between one of them, but I reckon I've got about 25 minutes or so consistent recording where I can turn the angle of elevation that's demonstrated on the Bubble app, multiply that by the time that the Bubble app is demonstrating the consistent angle to produce a vector, and over that 25 minutes of time, translate those vectors into directions above a plane and above a globe as well, to be fair. And
Adam,
hopefully that...
Are you alluding to the fact that you gathered some data that you can turn your vectorizations into visualizations?
Well, you see.
Lovely.
See, yeah. Play. Yeah.
That was delightful. Rolled off the tongue.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to describe. I'm not saying it means that yet. I've gathered the data and I've filmed it. I was really lucky. I'm 6'2" odd, so I always get extra leg room on a Ryanair flight. Otherwise, I've got my knees in my nose. And a real bonus, I never end up sitting with my kids and the wife because it's 3, which was good this time because my son's filled a bag full of carrier bag full of stuff on the way on the flight. But
was
in
that
doing
you
so,
who made that video, Adam? That you went up and asked the pilot whether he knew about flat Earth, and he went, "Yeah, we know about that." Yeah. Was that you, mate?
I think that was Mr. Walt, wasn't it? That was doing that one.
Mr. Trick Bear, man.
Yeah. I tried to do it, and I said to my wife, "I'm going to go and do it." She says, "If you do that, I'm going to kill you." So it's Ryanair, mate. This isn't if back in the day when we used to fly British Airways, you'd do it, wouldn't you? Ryanair, frankly,
Ryanair,
I was
mate.
glad
You should have slipped them 50 quid, and they'd let you fly the freaking plane for it.
Oh yeah, fair point. In fact, I reckon if you're booking online, you could probably for 100 quid, you probably could fly the plane with Ryanair discounts. But anyway, I spent ages. I've sent a link through. I don't know to the panel room if it's viewable. It's of no interest for anybody to watch, but it's a bubble app, and you'll see the bubble app not change for ages and ages and ages, or fluctuate between 2.8 and 3 degrees, or 3 degrees and 1 degree. It's a very boring video, but within that, over the next few sort of 3 or 4 weeks, I intend to turn that into vectors, which should demonstrate the flight plan of what the plane was doing between the UK and Italy. The interesting thing is this flight from Nottingham seems to take between in the air, and I don't know what this means, but I'm just suggesting the time differences that I give you give all sorts of possibilities for illusion, collusion, or whatever. But I've taken 3 hours on this flight, and I've taken the 2 hours, 10 minutes that it took on Thursday night. I don't know why between Nottingham and Rome it would take 50 minutes difference. Maybe that's the winds that we're experiencing. I have no idea. Maybe it's just that the flight paths and that flight can't land earlier. But it's very strange that you get a 33% difference between this time last year and this time this year for a plane to fly the same distance.
8 seconds.
Interesting that I noticed on my flight. That was really weird. Well, it's not weird now that I know what I know, but so I was going west to east on my flight home, and on the way back, I was going east to west, right? Yeah. And the flight time, because they'd like to trick you to thinking that when you fly one way, it's faster because of the wind and the rotation, right? But I noticed that instead of doing the straight line shot like they did when I left and I departed from Edmonton, on the way home, they did they just wasted time. It's like an idiot move. They just adjusted it so we flew over the US, and that ate up the extra time. That added the extra time. So that's a lame excuse for how they're hiding the fact that it really shouldn't take any longer to go from LA to Australia anytime, or LA to wherever, you know what I mean? To LA to London should take the same time.
Well,
same
speaking
speed
of that,
ways.
James, do you remember the guy who, I think he was on Mark Sargent or something? He was the US Marine, and he was talking about crossing the Atlantic and coming up on Spain 3 days early and this sort of thing, and saying he was describing how they called it doing boxes in the Atlantic, where they would literally do a left, do a left, do a left, do a left, and do this endlessly for sort of days on end, and then still turn up in Spain 3 days before they were meant to actually get there. Do you remember that?
You know what and you know what I realized too? They really fool you on these flights. Like the one back, and on these transatlantics, they time them at night. The blinds are closed. You're in a box, man. You could literally get shuffled into a warehouse somewhere, and with animatronics, think you're on a flight. I mean, most of the blinds are closed. You don't know where the F you're flying.
You might as well be in one of those suspension chambers or something.
Yeah, as long as it feels like a plane, it moves a little bit like a plane. And I mean, just to touch on the gravity aspect of it, our bodies, I mean, we're using all these accelerometers and, levels to test things, but our bodies are ultra sensitive machines, like the most sensitive. Yeah. And yet all we feel in the airplane with gravity is the takeoff and the landing. Then we can feel something. For the rest, it's just, we don't feel any forces on us in the plane.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're I think you're actually in a plane, but I think, like you say, they could be going 300 miles an hour. They could be going 1,300 miles an hour.
Or they could really be doing the loops, know. And we wouldn't know.
Or doing the loops. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But our bubble apps would tell us about that. That might come in the future.
Yeah.
Look at this. Yeah. John, doing a 360 loop.
Or even if they do a 90-degree turn every hour, you'd be like, he's doing the cube.
Sorry, Adam.
Can I... You know what a geek I am, and the rest of the guys know what a geek I am. Now, I can't sit here and tell you that the Bubble app demonstrated to me that you take off on a flat plane and you fly for a considerable amount of time and then you land. Now, within that flight time, the thing I noticed, there was no such thing as level flight. However, level flight appears to fluctuate, and this is part of the calculations because they appear to be about a degree. When me and you were talking, John, to Paul on the plane privately about setting the Bubble app and checking the actual levelness of the plane while it's sat there while you're loaded in and putting your bags in and so on. So those all these calculations to me, from what I observed, that we went around a globe based on that Bubble app is naive. I watched the plane take off with the Bubble app, and even if I start with 1 degree elevation because the nose is slightly higher, most of the time that plane is fluctuating between 1 and 3 degrees heading upwards. Okay,
just as the pilot said today on the
angle's always the same.
Exactly. As the pilot alludes, you have to tip up because frankly you're fighting
that's how a plane density. Works. Yeah, that's how a plane and how a wing works.
Yeah. Well, a baller would say gravity, but I think you're fighting density, and density always pulls you down. Okay. Now, in doing so, if you want to fly level, you can't angle your plane level. And this is the sort of stuff I want to look at, is now to do those calculations about density flying on a flat plane and angling between 1 and 3 degrees, which is what I've seen, and density on a ball, because that angle drop is going to suddenly exponentially fall away at the rate that the ball falls away. It's not going to fall away at the same rate that density is dropping your altitude. But I would say what I've observed is highly unlikely that any of that data could ever prove a ball. I think the reality is most of it will prove a flat plane where we have a lot more thinking to do about how we maintain altitude and how the effects of density and buoyancy really do affect us in significant ways.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I mean, for someone to calibrate the Bubble app in London and to fly several degrees around a spherical ball to Italy and to turn the machine back on again and it not to show a discrepancy is just a slap in the face for anyone who thinks we live on a ball.
I can be a shitbag. even more so on this point. Okay. Now, like I said, the data I've got doesn't demonstrate anything that I would put my name to now. But what I would say quite clearly from the data I've got is there's two inferences actually. Either Paul's data that we've all seen, that the accelerometer doesn't respond to gravity, and based on that, either the accelerometer is minutely adjusting itself based on gravity and at an infinitesimal rate whilst you're flying, or it doesn't have any effect by gravity whatsoever. And I think most physicists would say an accelerometer is not affected by gravity. And I would suggest the data that I've seen so far would suggest the same, because the angle that I've measured over time, not Paul measuring it before and afterwards, but during the flight, significant changes, and the plane is maintaining the same altitude. Now, like I said, I've got to compare it against some of the airline altitudes to compare my flight and just double check that my varying over that hour or half an hour between ridiculous altitudes, that it was actually set a path and it would maintain the same altitude on the way to Rome, or not, like that any of that data could possibly be against taking off and flying from Nottingham to Rome on a ball that could only be explained on a flat plane with buoyancy and density forcing the plane, in a slight way, for you to have to keep gaining altitude.
Adam, you're cracking up a little bit. Can you?
Right. Last point.
Hold on. Can you say what you're going to say in a tweet?
Yeah. Okay. If my plane was flying on a ball from Nottingham to London, 1 to 3 degrees upwards would never occur. There would be a ground. Okay. Now that upwards motion. No, I can't. I can't do it in a tweet, John. That's why I don't tweet. Yeah.
I'm surprised you tweet at all, Adam.
I do try, but it's genuinely for good people like Teresa. John, when we first met, the only reason I ever tweeted was because I knew John was a good man. And so I don't tweet, but I felt the need to tweet to him. God speaks. I'm not a Christian, but God speaks, boys. Anyway, shut up, Meakin.
Anyone want to round it up?
No, I think it's been a great show so far. I think it's about time we head to the Fringe. I think it's about that time, if not past that time.
It definitely can be.
I meant to summarize what Adam was saying, because I'm sorry, mate, but you were bubbling in and out quite badly there, for me anyway.
No, summarize then, because hopefully I've made some good, because the data I've collected there, mate, there's no way in the world it's a ball. Yeah, because the numbers I've collected, it can't be a ball. It can't be a ball unless an aeroplane is constantly falling through the air, yeah, which wouldn't be possible on takeoff. So either the actions of an aeroplane throughout steady flight are very different to when it's on takeoff, or your aeroplane would never, ever, ever take off.
There but you
I
go.
will.
There's your tweet. According to my data, it's not a ball. Photo
I love the way you tweet
of data. Over to you, Josh.
That's a really good tweet. That's a mouthful right there. That says a whole lot in a small amount of words.
Well, I mean, from what I gather, Adam's got, a fair bit of data. So he's saying it's not a ball. So yeah, absolutely, get it. Cool. Sorry. Over to you.
Well, I was just going to say the fact that he has data that says it's not a ball implies that he's done something to gather data. So it's not just he's talking out of his rear end.
No, what I did, mate, I took my son's mobile phone, which had downloaded a bubble level app, and I set it level on the airport floor, which was level, and I put it on the plane, and it was about 1 degree. When I put it on the plane, now part of what we always get criticised for as flat earthers is we're not scientific. And part of the conjecture that me, John, and Paul on the plane had discussed prior to all of the experiments we've done is that the front of the plane, when it's sat on the airway, will be slightly higher. And my data proves that, yeah? Outside of the irrelevancy of that fact, 1 degree, because I'm talking 1.8 to 3 degrees is the variance I see. So it's a 1.8 degree, is it? No, 2.2 degree variance that we actually see on the bubble app. And I film the bubble app for best part of half an hour continuously. It's in 3 or 4 parts.
Hold on, Adam, can I just jump in?
Yeah.
So are you saying that when you were on the tarmac, you calibrated it in the airport, on the marble floor and all the rest of it? When you were on the tarmac in the plane with the bubble app on the floor, you were showing that the front was higher or lower?
Higher.
Wow, okay. I would have said the opposite, but yeah, no, that's interesting.
Now, one degree. It was about 1 degree from level, basically, slightly. And if you know what, get in the middle of the plane or get to the back of the plane as a human being, right, and look at the front of the plane, and you'll see the freaking thing slightly elevated. I used to have a caravan, right, before I was lucky enough to get away with my kids over to Italy. We used to go out to Matlock and we bought a caravan, yeah. And Dad would sit there for hours trying to level that bastard off, excuse my French, with a jack and a spirit level, trying to get level. I didn't need the spirit level because I could always look from one window to other and go, yeah, that's not level. So as a sentient human being, you don't need a spirit level. Look down the plane, and does the top end of that plane look higher or lower than the feet that your feet?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very
did
simple.
You get any
We're all aware
of the bubble app? I've seen 8 seconds.
Bubble app, I've only sent you 8 seconds because I thought it'd fill in. That might be that was the 8 seconds where, and this guy was a legend. He was from Clifton because he could talk. I'll give him that. You think, oh, I've got an extra seat, no kids and a wife. I'll set that film and I'll go to sleep. And this guy kept prodding me off all the way through the flight. And Ash, you're a legend, mate. God bless you. You might be from Clifton. I don't hold that against you. But
so when it was on the runway, was the bubble going towards the cockpit?
Yeah. What about 1 degree, 1.2 degree? I've the measurements are there, mate. But literally, there was a million things I was dealing with. The exact number I couldn't quote to you right now, but
no, I'm not looking for exact number. That's cool. Wow, blimey.
But it fluctuated, and that's why you only see the 8 degree, because he woke me up. He said to me, oh, your phone's just run out, mate. So I set it again, and 8 seconds later he goes, it's run out again. I've realized I've run out of data on my phone.
Oh, God.
So I deleted all of those pictures that we all delete because it's filling up our phone for no reason. You know what I mean? And then I carried on filming. But, thank goodness to him, because I'd have been asleep and I'd have wasted a load of hours. But, no, top lad. And as far as I can see, mate, it's level flight. So what I want to do is calculate buoyancy drop against what you said, which is that pilot saying, no, we have to, because you are trying to fight against the force. Whether that force is gravity, is still a force scientifically you need to fight against. Okay. Now, the significance I would suggest is that gravity is enormous. It's more than a degree. If the effect of gravity can pull the tides by more than a degree, then I would suggest that a plane should have its angle to maintain stable flight by at least the equivalence.
How would they explain?
Of what
the Earth would
tides
smash the plane every time, because when the plane was behind, it would have to slow down, and when it was in front, it would have to speed up, and that doesn't happen. So that in itself proves that, without a doubt, it's a ball. I mean, it's a plane. It's not a ball. But you get what I mean?
No,
like that whole thing.
What that does, James, is destroy the idea of the Coriolis effect. What it doesn't do scientifically is destroy the idea that the Earth is spinning beneath you.
But the plane's angle,
you can't.
The plane's angle is always the same.
No. The Earth can catch you up. That's an irrelevant fact to this experiment. Yeah. But what you do raise is that the Coriolis effect does have an effect in this. Now, if it did.
No, I'm speaking of gravity, mate. Like gravity, how can it pull behind and then forward? I didn't think it as Coriolis, but I see what you're saying.
Well, gravity pulls down. It only ever pulls down.
Right. But
it doesn't, because it doesn't exist. But if it would only pull down. This is the hard stuff, isn't it? When you get to that point where you start to have to mitigate for things that don't actually happen scientifically, which is very scientific of you, but actually not very scientific, because what you're actually doing is mitigating for religion rather than observation.
Well, speaking of that, Adam and James, this week I've been told by a NASA scientist that the moon actually orbits the Earth faster than the Earth spins. Now, I've also been told that, I've been told since I was born that the moon takes 29 days to make a synodic day around the Earth. So, talking about defending, this is how I'm going to tie it in anyway, is defending the ball Earth model against a ball earther. I'm being told this week by a ball earther that the moon goes around the Earth twice a day. Did anyone see all of this?
You asked me a couple questions and try to get my perspective on what you'd been reading. I've sort of seen the same sort of nonsense being put out there. Yeah, but I think it says a lot about the double speak and the muddying of the waters.
Well, I mean, there's the video that is literally the NASA scientist. They introduce him. This is the Huffington Post or the Washington Post or whatever. And they introduce this guy from Goddard who's a scientist. His name is Neil Young, maybe. And he says that the moon, and this is a response to why the August eclipse is going to go across the states from west to east. And so he's saying that the moon is actually orbiting faster than the Earth is spinning, when in all of our upbringing we've been taught that the moon is orbiting in 29 days, 27, 29, around the Earth from west to east. Well, 27 is a sidereal day. 29 is the actual synodic day. So the sidereal day of anything is bullshit, Adam, because it's based on spheres and balls rotating around each other.
The only reason I threw that in there was for sarcasm and to exemplify the point how we're all mystified. okay, as we've looked into the numbers on this, and it doesn't mean anything unless you qualify it with the exemplifier that you're using. So 27 days.
There you are, Adam.
Compared to a sidereal day. And it's nonsense that is there.
Your camera's on, mate.
Yeah,
and then the camera's on. I've switched my mic off. I'm sorry about it. It's there. It's stuff there that's specifically to confuse you. Okay, just like me and my mic and my camera switch. Confuse me. But did you get me? It's there to mix the number. It's 27 days in a lunar day, so that none of you, whenever you look at it briefly, unless you're actually believing that that everything is lying to you, the numbers are perfectly reasonable to shut them down with cognitive dissonance. As soon as you stop apply a mathematical application to it, they become nonsense. And
this is clear deception, though. I mean, in one breath, he'll say that the moon is. He'll say the moon is orbiting almost twice as fast as the Earth is spinning. Now, what the NASA fangirls are going to say, fanboys are going to say, is that what he's talking about is that the Earth is spinning at 1,040 miles an hour, blah, give or take, whatever, nothing. And the moon is traveling at 2,280 miles an hour or whatever. So that's twice the speed of the spin of the Earth. But that's not what he's showing with his hands. It's not even what they're showing with the graphic. Let me play it. You guys can feel for a sec. I'll bring up this this clip. It's unbelievable.
And it certainly isn't what we observe.
What do you think, Josh? Sorry, Walt. I mean, you're the guy that knows this old school ways in terms of solar stuff, in terms of planetary orbits and stuff, in terms of really understanding from a UFO perspective.
I mean, it's certainly gobbledygook. They're trying to explain away this whole kink that the backward moon shadow is causing to their heliocentric model. We all know what we've grown up observing. Anybody who watches the sky in any regularity can look up and see that the moon is obviously not orbiting us at twice the speed, twice a day, any of that madness. That's just, it's ludicrous. It's easily debunked just by observing above us.
And that's the point I'm making. You're the expert on this because you'd have done the UFO stuff in detail that us ever have done. And as I think we've alluded to earlier on, when we talk about these and we make these statements, it means not quickly typing in UFOs in Google. It means hours and hours and hours of research.
Years and years, yes.
Stand up on YouTube and make a statement, yeah? So when you see that, well, you're the expert on this in terms of solar and lunar eclipses and movement of planetary stuff.
Right. Well, John's right with the numbers. I mean, the 27 versus the 29, that is the synodic versus the sidereal. And I mean, to me, that's always been more of that whole trying to explain that wheeling across the sky that the moon does more than anything else, in relation to any type of what we see, quote unquote, as an orbit. I mean, John did that great video of the wheeling of the moon across the sky that I throw at people all the time. And they're always like, that's not really happening. That's somebody spinning the camera. And I'm like, wow, are you even looking up during the night? Do you not notice that the moon changes throughout the night? I mean, it's so much basic observation they don't even do. And then they've got it all figured out because NASA said it, or the book said it, or science said it. When we're all doing the observation, we're all doing the actual, like, this doesn't add up. Let's see what is actually going on here. But that's just us crazy flat earthers doing that crazy science stuff, not being scientism believers.
Adam, can I jump in here before you continue? We're about to hit 2 hours and 30 minutes. I really want to jump into the fringe because we don't really have anything planned. That's what the Fringe is. Although this week,
Surely.
and I would love to get a chance to talk to Teresa and some of her theories and the things she's been thinking about with the moon. But I want to make sure, Adam, you're able to stick around and join in that conversation. So why don't we take a little break and we will transition in and we can watch these videos that John's got pulled up and we'll get a chance to.
And we'll talk about more of this craziness. This is so fun. I love it.
We'll continue on. I think that'd be probably the best.
Absolutely, bro. If Teresa's lined up as well, mate, I'd love to. Because week, my little Hoovian friend that I've met, and that'd be fantastic if we could. On that, and the point, all I want to say on this is that, as I just did earlier, there's a point of concedement of superior knowledge, and I think hopefully that's what I demonstrated there to Walt, is that, you know, we are normal people doing normal jobs in our normal. And if somebody wants to question me on pharmacy, I'll smash the shit out of you, mate. Yeah, because I will take you to a level that, at degree level, I've thought beyond. Okay, and there's a reason why I am what's described as a friend of Nottingham University, and that's not because I'm one of the plebs that work there. It's because I'm one of the guys that supplement their thinking, okay? But I can only supplement that thinking in my expertise. And what we tend to do is succeed our own mental thought processes to those that we are told have superior mental thought processes. And since becoming on a level, as I've described to you, a university level with the deans, the doctorates. And I'll be honest with you, 12 years ago, I worked for a company called Asda. You guys will know it as Walmart. And I only bring this up to give some quality to the statements that I make. And I was paid by that company. You've heard of Walmart, Josh, yeah?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Something I've seen. Yeah, it seems familiar.
So I was sponsored by that company to go and learn. Actually, this is the strange thing. I was asked by them to treat about how pharmacists could hand down their responsibilities to what's called checking technicians to make sure that the physical accuracy, i.e., the guy at the window there at McDonald's is sort of 2 Big Macs, yeah, a quarter pounder with cheese, fries, and a strawberry shake. And so to disseminate down the practical aspects of that in terms of pharmacy so that pharmacists weren't doing that technicians were doing that. So I was taught by these guys that and it was there where I got involved with the university and that. And it was there that when I was teaching in the universities, and I say this respectfully, that I told those at the top of the university they didn't know what they were doing, and what they were doing was a great disservice to our profession, and came in and it was at that I'm not bigging myself up here. The point I'm trying to make is that it was at that point that I realized that actually beyond your own intellect, there isn't anything better. You might be told there's things that are better, but they're not better. They're not necessarily better. They're different. And that your own intellect is just as powerful. End of.
Well said.
Yes, sir.
Very well said.
And hit the fridge.
Yeah,
sorry. What we're going to do, I think, is take what Walt and I have dubbed the YouTube hard break, where we're actually going to go ahead and kill this feed so that it ends the video, so we don't end up with a super long video, and we'll just do like everybody for tuning in. Thanks for listening. I hope you stick around. and join us in the Fringe. I will advise you, it may get a little graphic. We do tend to, I wouldn't say graphic, maybe that's not the correct word, but we do tend to use adult language. So just keep that in mind. You've got your kids listening, go ahead and cover their ears. So everybody be good. We'll see you on the backside. That was a false start. Turns out it's still going to connect. So it's still going to be a long one. So give me just a couple more minutes. Let me reset a few more things, and hopefully it'll stop trying to resume this damn stream.
I'll second that. This is killing my live stream, of course. But wow. Second only to the gyroscope video, yeah. Although at least that had visuals. What are we doing? You trying to stop a live stream and start a new one, or? Let me just point out that we're still streaming on my channel, okay? No, no. Can, can you explain vectors? Yep. Mhm. Yep. Yep.
has taken off and it's at level flight. And actually, on a flat Earth, what your plane should do is fly along D5, E5, F5, G5, H5, and then start descending down into Rome.
Brill. Go ahead.
Go, you go, because I'm rambling.
What the flight did in Canada, what they did to me, instead of like, you just nailed it, it's a straight line, they went down to like E, a row, to add time. They went down in like 2 spots. They went to like E and F, or whatever the vertical one is, and then went across, and then went back up to 2 points on the grid to make the time match for their globe. That's what I just wanted to say.
Yeah. So they are excusing the downward motion. And the downward motion is absolutely acceptable at the point of descent. But the point of what we were trying to measure in Paul on the plane, Paul's experiments are slightly different because they measure from point A to B, and they demonstrate that even an accelerometer doesn't do what it says on the box, or the world isn't flat, isn't a ball. Yeah, it's flat because the accelerometer states it's flat. What I'm suggesting in terms of these bubbleometer experiments is, and I've got a lot of explaining to do and a lot of proofs to make, but I would stand by it at this point, and I would make the statement that for the hour-and-a-half duration, I'll call it an hour. Let's call it an hour. For the hour's duration of flight that I measured, that plane was constantly pointing upwards. And unless physics, which it hasn't done up until this point, can explain the drop in altitude of an aeroplane when it's pointed between 2 and 3 degrees.
Out of the window of a car, and you'll see your hand palm. If you want it to go anywhere and not get ripped off, you have to lift your fingers a little bit, and that's how it goes.
Keep it level, because then you are in levelness, right? But if after an hour's flight, then the level of density, and this is something, and in all fairness to ballers, this is something they never discuss, and it's something they should discuss because it is physics, and that's their ignorance. And that's probably a bigger indictment to the ball philosophy, because of all the ball bollocks we listen to, they don't actually give the excuses that we give them. And if they don't accept the excuses, that's not us being kind, that's them being ignorant of real physics, and therefore actually undermines their physics even more.
Adam, you've collected this data.
I'm off on one again, aren't I?
Collected this data, and you've shown that the plane actually noses up whilst it's flying for over an hour, which is a complete anomaly, as it should need to nose down. But I see we've been joined by Rob, and I know Rob's time is limited, and so you carry on, Adam.
One point on that, because it might qualify Rob's point, and it's the only point I hope I already made, but is that if you are flying at that point, the question is, scientifically, do you have to angle the nose up, and let's say call it 2 degrees from my basic assumptions right now, do you have to angle the nose of the plane up 2 degrees to fly around a globe on a straight point, given that the level of depreciation of the aeroplane through density and buoyancy will negate 2 degrees consistently? Now, I've got a lot of maths to do after this, but that's the point I'd make, Rob. Is that the point I'm measuring? Because if it ain't, there ain't no shitting way there's a ball out there. Yeah? There's mathematically no opportunity to stick a ball in there. what I'm giving you in terms of me rambling is an opportunity for ballers to make an excuse. What I'm actually saying is it's bollocks.
I was thinking of that. Nobody likes to use their silly models to show them a point that they don't even listen to. I don't like using their stupid gravity idea and the rotation to show them it's impossible. It stinks. I wish it was easier.
Yeah, I agree.
Hello, everyone. I'm back.
Hey, Rob.
Hi, Rob.
How did it all go? You work out those questions?
No, they stumped us. We were hoping you would show back up and get us straight, man.
Well, coming back to those questions, there's that satellite phone, there's the Bible question, there you go. A couple of things.
Yeah, well,
what was the satellite phone one?
You asking me?
Yeah, apparently.
Well, I've used satellite phones and they don't work very well. I could, yeah.
Right, you
Terrible.
use them in Australia, haven't you?
All they are is a better antenna.
It was
Longer
something
antenna.
about
That's all they are.
how they work, if there's no antennas, if it's all done by antennas, if it works in places with no antennas, then how
If
does
they
it
worked
work?
on satellites, they would work perfectly. Wouldn't
Everywhere. Yeah.
they? Yes.
Nixon,
It would work
Nixon was
perfectly.
able to tell them
And that would be the main communication for everybody.
I
Wouldn't
agree.
it? Why would you use anything else if there was satellite phones? Why would you use anything else other than satellite phones?
In fact, they rub it in our faces, and they have red and blue companies competing. We have more coverage. No, we do. No, we do. No, we do. It's funny. If they had the one, everyone would use it. That's hilarious.
Well, if you go out west in Australia, there you can see the towers, more and more towers going up all the time. So, yeah, you get more coverage, but yeah, there are black spots out there. And if you get a satellite phone, it's very, very scratchy. All they're doing is they're a better aerial, better phone in the aerial. That's all they are.
Better tech.
Yep. Not much more to say than that, is there?
That's exactly what I think. Can you see my screen? This is from a mobile satellite phone company.
Is that someone using their satellite phone right now?
That sounds like it.
Oh, that's
Wow.
Teresa. I'm calling via the flatline. How cool is that?
Very cool.
But look, there doesn't seem to be any satellites going over Australia, over Africa or India,
India,
or most of
yeah.
China.
Suggesting that they don't have.
Madagascar, any of that.
And
Yeah, well, you know what,
notice
don't
that they have full coverage in Australia, but we've just heard from Rob that he went into the outback and it was sketchy as hell. So
I wouldn't
what
even
a
call it
joke.
the outback. It's probably about 100 k's inland, I suppose, up in
Right.
the, sort of the hills.
It was
Up in the
probably
hills,
the
you know,
most
not
terrifying thing
Service
about
area.
Australia.
That's
Rob.
where you are currently, ladies and gentlemen, in the fringe service area right now.
No,
Look
it was
at
bloody
this.
terrible.
$400.
Terrifying being out in the outback knowing. I was just scared the crap out of me as a kid, Rob. Because the guy took my family and he's like, this is it, eh? No phones. The sat phone won't work. There's nothing. You guys are just out here. And we all looked at each other like, holy shitballs.
And it's black out there too.
Oh,
there's no
dude.
towns
We were in the middle of Alice Springs. We ended up
There's
staying
not
at the
towns for
cattle
1,000.
lodges. That was
Could be
You know
1,000
what's
kilometers
worse?
to the nearest town.
You know what's worth? I, as a full 100% subscriber to the mainstream bullshit, totally believe, right, in the level of the Outback film. What was that bullshit film where you go to the Outback and you are raped and murdered and tortured by a stupid Aussie who lives in Dingo Desert Land? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Wolf Creek, isn't it? Wolf Creek? Is that what it's called?
Great.
That was a frightening one.
Yeah, I think they
Bullshit,
tried
Mr.
to
Handman.
tried to base that on a true story. There was a story
Of course there
going back a
was.
few years ago now, the Outback Killer, where he grabbed a couple of pommy husband and wife, or maybe they were honeymooners or fiance, I can't really remember, but killed him and she got away, and that was out in the middle of nowhere. I'm not too sure if it was it seemed like a true story.
Mm.
It seemed
Well, how
pretty
big
legitimate.
Rob, how big is Australia? Is it bigger? Is it as big as we were taught when we were kids?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
When we assumed it was at least as wide as America, right? Or is it just as big as the United States of America in landmass? I don't know which you want me to believe, but if you want me to believe the latter, I struggle to believe in Wolf Creek, unless, of course, you are that backward country, yeah, where nobody knows where anybody go. God damn, the satellite phones, they don't work. We don't know where nothing is in this country. Yeah, it's one of those two things. And I'm happy with either, but I'd like a definitive answer on which. And then I can actually scientifically move forward. But you're either so
I know it's huge.
I know it's huge
because I know truckies that have driven from one side of the country to the other, and you don't see them for 8 or 9 days. If they leave here and go over to Perth, you don't see them for 8 or 9 days before they get back again.
Right, so stop there.
Look at this satellite coverage here,
James,
and ask why Africa is not covered in this satellite thing. And why Australia is completely covered in this satellite coverage, and yet you can drive 200 kilometers in one direction and this satellite phone is useless. I mean, it is literally
false advertising again.
It's literally a big
game
antenna, like this thing I'm showing here. I hope.
We give our truckies that go out west. We've got 2 satellite phones in my office. We give them to the truckies that go out west because they do go into black spots where the phones won't work at all, and we want them to ring. We want them to ring in every night and tell us where they are. And even the satellite phones won't work out there. They have to find a spot where the satellite phone works.
Yeah, right. I mean,
but they do work better. But
well, they've got an enormous aerial on them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an enormous aerial compared to, I mean, this is what a phone normally looks like with no aerial. I mean, this thing folds up and,
respectfully, can I interject?
Yes.
That's bollocks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, we are being described that a satellite either operates or it doesn't. And I'm happy with that, okay? And if we accept a satellite operates or it doesn't, there is no difference geographically from one place to the other. If we accept that the transmission is variable geographically, now the only variance within that is altitude, okay? If we have the same altitude, then the difference in respect to a satellite is exactly the same. So variance does not occur. It doesn't matter on what bit of the globe it happens. The only variance from the point of a satellite is altitude, and i.e. sea level above or below. And by definition, you would assume that actually definition below sea level becomes worse. That's not necessarily the case, as we can exemplify later. But the points you two guys were talking about there is bollocks. Every bit of subjugation is, the point is, that's nonsense. And the globe destroys by it.
What? What are you saying? Is Teresa still here, or did she leave already?
No, I'm still here.
Hello. How are you?
Hello. I'm fine. I muted it so I wouldn't interrupt.
I just love that it's working.
Welcome, Teresa.
Hi.
Hello, Teresa. Where are you, Teresa?
Cleveland.
That's Ohio in the U.S.
Yeah, Cleveland, Ohio, United States.
Where I live, there's a Cleveland Bay where I live. It's the, if I go out on a boat, I'll be going into Cleveland Bay.
You can tell by the way I talk, no?
No.
Rob doesn't mean
you all sound the same to me, except for Walt.
I'm sorry?
Except for Walt, you all sound the same to me.
Damn American.
You're racist, you are. You racist Aussie.
Yeah, that surprises me. Wow. My feelings are hurt.
Teresa, hello. It's been really good fun chatting with you this week, you Hoovian Duvian. Enjoyed it.
My God. Thank you for being patient with me. I know I was like a machine gun. Like, well, what about this? And what if this? And how about that? And he was like, I don't know, Teresa. I don't know, Teresa. Teresa, I don't know. Finally,
you know what, mate? This week's been a great example, hasn't it? It's been a great example of those. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about individuals going out there and finding the truth for themselves. I can't give the truth to anybody. Neither can you after you've learned a little bit of information that you've gleaned from me. But we can all go and glean a little bit from everybody and build our own truth and share it.
Electrostatic and the electromagnetic, nobody would answer that question for me. Google wouldn't answer the question. They would look at me and blink. Why are you asking that question, Teresa?
Well, ask that question and maybe give the answer, because I thought I was quite clever there. I don't know as I was, but I thought that about summed it up in a basic terms.
What's the difference between electrostatic and electromagnetic?
Yeah,
because so polarity, you're looking at positive, negative, and neutral, I'm assuming.
So that was. Let's put this in context, shall we, Teresa? This week we've had a funny week. Me and Teresa's met since last week via IRM, and I said online, right? I'll talk and engage with people.
Let me tell you, I picked Adam because he was the most patient, especially with that guy. I think I told you guys last week. He was just the most patient, and I know I can be rather intense. I know this about myself.
You are intense. You want to know, mate? I'll tell you what, Teresa, it's a real pleasure talking to you, mate. It's been fun this week. I've really enjoyed it.
Adam, you're enjoying everything.
The first theory I came up with, the one I wrote out.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear it. I missed a lot of the conversation. Adam was, we had a pre-hang earlier in the week, and Adam was going over some of the things you talked about, and naturally I missed so much of it. So yeah, I would love to have you recap it for me.
Go ahead, Adam. Tell him what your theory was.
Me and Teresa's had loads of chats. So since the Moonlight experiment, we've been engaging heavily. And I'll tell you what, it's been real fun theorizing with people, whether you agree with the theory, and this is part of the fun. You know what? Step outside of the paradigm, guys, and engage in openly. Forget the preconceptions you have. Engage in stuff. And some of the stuff that Teresa's given me, I don't necessarily agree with it, but my God, it's been enlightening. Save it and learn from it, and save it for the future, because open debate is amazing. I'm done.
Listen, I'm the lunatic fringe around here. And when I tell people that the earth is flat, they just look at me like I'm insane. So there's no way that they're gonna even sit for a theory about the moon turns away from us. It's just not gonna happen.
I want to say to both you, da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Gleam on, gleam on.
Take the morning.
The first theory is because I kept going, Adam, why? Why is moonlight cold? Adam, why? Why? It's like a 4-year-old. And he just kept saying, I don't know. So I sat down and came up with a theory. And that's probably the theory he disagrees with. My theory was that there's a rabbit, and the rabbit opens the refrigerator door, and that's why the moonlight is cold.
Amen. And that is science, right? And people might take the piss, Teresa. Yeah? But that's science. Disprove it. That's science. Disproving that theory is science. Where's the rabbit? Well, we can rule out the rabbit, can't we? Where's the fridge? Rule out the fridge. Right. What we're left with is the illumination of cold light. Okay? So that theory is solid are boring. The rabbit in the fridge. Which are the fundamentals, but actually they're not the fundamentals if you think bigger outside of the rabbit in the fridge, outside of the individual. The reality is what you suggested is probably correct. The world we live in, we still perceive the parameters as the ways of viewing that. Yeah.
Well, I was just going with, I actually Googled fringe theories about the moon. And Google has a hard time with the moon landing was faked. So I had to basically go to the last page of the internet. I guess it's it might be a Russian fairy tale or whatever, that there's a rabbit that lives on the moon. And I just kind of tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah, I have Greg Vanneman in the chat saying it was a Chinese myth. It's Chinese science. Okay. Yeah, that's science from China.
Okay, so let's take this scientifically. Okay, they're lovely. That's fun. The most fantastical bullshit I've heard. So let's back it up. First of all, let's identify a rabbit, whether he's a Chinese rabbit,
that's not really
an American rabbit.
That's not really what I think, though. I don't think it's a rabbit. I went with I'm thinking polarity, the sun. Now I don't know. I just picked one. The sun is positive, and it expresses that in warm light, and the moon is negative, and that is expressed in cold light. That's what I went with.
I think.
Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, and that was Teresa. That's the point I'm trying to make, isn't it? You know, it ain't fucking rabbits, is it? Right. So let's bin the rabbits and let's think about actually the posology behind what the rabbit could be. Okay. And I think me and Teresa's had some fantastical bullshit chat, and it's been interacted with both of us, the Doctor Who fans. And, there's nothing wrong with your history support. And anybody who's had understanding of time has a comprehension of fourth dimension, well ahead of anybody that said Doctor is rubbish. Yeah. So we've had lots of chat this week, and she is promising to nick me. I think, as far as I can tell, Teresa, is that right?
I remember doing that.
Knitting me the Doctor Who scarf.
Listen, that shit's 12 feet long, dude. Dude, keep nipping. You have children. Keep them knitting. That's what I say. Keep the knitting going. I have children. I have them.
Well, they're not working hard enough if they've not made my scarf yet.
I love them, but listen, no.
Yeah, but seriously, we've genuinely, me and Teresa, as you can tell, lots of sideways chat about every single part of this topic, and the reality is none of us understand it. And the point I've tried to make, Teresa, is that modern physics has not one, not a little bit, it's a fucking rabbit in the moon. It's not this, it's not that, it's not the other. Modern physics has no explanation for what we've observed. Now, I will pull it back.
This is worse. When they do know something, like, for example, moonlight is measurably colder, they hide it. Or they make it like, if you Google that, and I want to say, I know I sent you that, like, I want to say that I Googled that weeks ago, and that page wasn't there, okay? I'm telling you.
Either, babe. It was there months ago. This is bullshit. Okay. And this is this shit annoying thing about what's happening and the reality that everybody has to realize about what happens when they, as individuals, type into their Google search page. Okay? This is reality. And we've talked earlier, about us guys outside, just the RM guys, talking about a year and a half, 2 years. Yeah. And these patterns become apparent. Now, what you're searching for Yeah, and what I'm searching for is based on what I've searched for previously. Okay, and you have to understand the algorithms that occur within Google every time you type in. If I type in Doctor Who, now me and you have started typing in this stuff.
I know that. That's why I sought you out. Because Google's not going to tell me. Fuck Google. It lies. Which their motto is don't be evil. So what does that tell you?
It tells us, mate, that whatever we search for on the internet, we can't trust for unless there is a person behind that statement. And the things I've learned this past week, and it's nothing to do with what me and you are researching, it's to do with a lot more that's come out with Antonio Subirats and people that I've built individual relationships with over months. Zed Proxy, Stan, Cosmic Surfer, is that actually it's those individual testaments of truth. They're the things that we should be using as scientific data as opposed to the bullshit that Google will give us. I'm done rambling.
Nice.
Yep. How about we move on to another one of those questions from today or something like that? Was another interesting one?
Well, they were all interesting in their own way, I suppose. I can just read verbatim what the question was for the satellite phones. Again, replace flat earthers with any other derogatory term, and you'll see how this all reads. So this is flat earthers that say, quote, satellites do not exist, end quote, but yet satellite phones exist. So what are they using? Radio-based station towers? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Then why is that the same satellite phones can work in valleys where base station tower radios does not work?
Cell phone towers. Next question.
Right. Or maybe you just put a great big fat antenna on a satellite phone and pretend it's something other than it's not. Is there any difference?
You know, stuff like this is, I don't have to prove to you what I believe. I don't. I know it's flat. I've moved on to what is the moon, what is the sun, you know, what is cold, what is hot, because I've been lied to for way, way too long.
Nope, that's it. It certainly does stir up a lot of anger, especially when you first start to wake up. I you know, even not metaphorically speaking, but when I first wake up, I'm a little cranky. Got to get my coffee in me, got to get a little energy going, get my brain working. And I think that works sort of for the metaphorical waking up too. When you first wake up, you're pretty cranky.
It took me weeks. I just kept saying, it's flat, it's flat, it's flat, it's flat. You know that it's flat. It was weeks. My whole world was shaking. But now that I'm a little more flexible, a little more pliable, you tell me that if moonlight is cold because a rabbit opened a refrigerator door and the moon is actually a refrigerator light, that's why it's cold, I might actually listen to you and go, huh, that's interesting. Let me think about it.
And that upsets me, that.
What's beautiful, though, isn't it? Wow, you have an original thought. Let me consider that. Could you just imagine what kind of world we would live in if everybody had that same reaction to an original thought? Huh, let me consider that for a moment. I mean, it'd be peace on earth.
Mr. Savage almost got me to start smoking again. Because he was like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Can I put my objection into context?
Would you please?
Yeah. So you described the point there, Teresa, yeah? And you heard my instant reaction. And that is based upon that I've just objectified this and we're opposed. And I think that exemplifies, it's fair enough, like people like Teresa who've bothered to listen to us. And she's got objection against what we say. And I make the point and people come back to it and other people make, and it's then reviewed negatively. I've lost my point totally. It's getting late. I'm sorry, Josh. Pick it up.
It's okay. I couldn't understand you because of that accent.
Go to bed, Adam, with a good head.
Well, technically, it's, what time is it over there, guys?
That didn't come out right at all.
Over here it is 8:30.
Nah, and it's half past off, isn't it? Getting on for 3. So, apologies, but
none needed.
Oh, thanks. Carry on then, Walt. Pick it up.
Yeah, you pick it up, Walt. You've been quiet.
I've been purposefully quiet. I've been listening to Teresa. It's good to have her on. I didn't enjoy the conversation you guys had. I was not in on it, so it's good to hear what you were talking about. John can definitely have some interesting opinions, especially his on tobacco. I read that he posted, and it was quite interesting. I've been a lifelong anti-tobacco person, so it was quite an eye-opening read. That doesn't mean I'm an advocate in any way, but definitely an interesting take on it.
Cheers, Walt.
Well,
I mean,
it was a very interesting take. Unfortunately, unless you can find natural tobacco, what they put in the cigarettes nowadays is not something you want to be consuming.
Oh, not at all. It's strictly a nicotine delivery system. That's what most modern cigarettes, in fact, all modern cigarettes, unless they're natural, are.
I spoke tonight on that, Walt, to a human being. I've arrived in Italy, right? And life's a fucker, isn't it? A year or so ago, I arrived in Italy, you guys are aware of. And whenever I arrive in a place, I don't try to diminish my human beingness in that situation. So when I engage with people, I engage with them on a human level. And really fucking odd, this guy. Guys, chew on this, because this is weird. Because this ain't shit that I'd planned to talk about. Right? So, and it's based on nicotine. So, John, keep me back to this in case I ramble on, which, you know, I know none of you think I tend to do, but I do. I do tend to ramble. So,
your words are too big for me, Adam. Way too big for me.
You're Australian.
Smaller words like at and but and.
Look, mate. There's a reason. Yep. There's a reason we all sent you over there. It was the ones that could only speak 3 or 4 syllables that we thought that we've had enough of them. We'll shift them over that end. Shut up, Robbie. See what you've done to me. I was chatting with a lass tonight, okay, and we all have lost the plot now, you buggers.
Hello.
The point I was trying to make was that, you know, this world's weird, guys. And a year ago, I rocked up and I did something positive in Italy. And I've turned up for a meal tonight. And there's a person, you know, where they always talk about 6 degrees of separation between us all. And I think this one was...
I'm remembering what you did now. You did something really nice. Oh, wow. Go ahead.
That's irrelevant to the point I'm making. But the point is, I rocked up tonight, and 4 degrees later, it's kick you in the arse. And of all the stuff we've talked about tonight, you've said this, you've said that, you've said the other. You know what? As long as all of us engage in positiveness, it might take a year, as I've witnessed tonight, for it to happen. But you know what? Be positive. Whether it's flat, whether it's globular. But you know what? If you love your fellow human, as Paul's talked about, as James has talked about, as lots of other people have talked about, and I'm not religious.
Daryl.
I'm not. Yeah, Daryl was a good one because he upset me because he talked about religion and it being important to him. You know what? It ain't important because we're all religious in our own religion. But as long as we pursue things honestly, with a conviction of honesty, and we answer those things honestly, not answer them with our preconceived religion, which Christianity has suffered for the past 200 years. But what we're seeing right now is scientism explaining away the shit that Christianity's had to do for 200 years. And the point I was trying to make is Christianity's done this shit for years and years and years and years and years, well before the Bible was even formed. And I listen to lots of Christians,
Christianity,
of which I'm not one. Go on, Karen. Sorry, Teresa.
On that note, mate, I would just like to say I love you all. I love you, James, Adam, Rob, Josh, Walt,
Karen,
Teresa, Karen,
Tony,
anyone else who'd like to go on there. But I've got to sign out now, and I'll catch you all later.
All right,
God
brother.
bless.
Bless, John.
Roger.
Sleep good.
Sleep well, John.
See you, John.
Next week. Have a good weekend.
It sounded like a tipsy John then too, was it?
I'm looking at Rob, and that makes it 3. Oh, no, he's behind me. I'm well ahead of him. I'm hardcore. He's weak. I'm a hard head, aren't I?
Don't mind. We're just playing the ball game.
Take me.
It's weird. My body clock doesn't know where it is, but I'm sure I'm 20 hours ahead of John.
Well, you're into tomorrow already.
I tell you what, though, he's
Rob's
been
in the future.
Well,
No, not till tonight. Not till tonight.
I think, Adam, though, you killed it, man. It's about humanity. Humanity is the best religion, man. Loving your neighbor as yourself. And if John was still here, Savage, he may not even remember this, but his core rules are pretty amazing too. It's like, and if you follow those, you'll do well too. It's like, don't hurt anybody. Listen to people and objectively think about it for a second, and try and be kind at all times. Like, that's my moniker. Like, let's be kind, even though I'm not all the time. It's hard, but that's how this has to all work, man. Kindness and love. And I love you guys so much, man. All you guys, including the listeners.
Well, I love you too, Jimmy.
James.
Back at you, brother.
Josh.
I'm just so happy you made it on, Teresa.
Rob.
You know what? I am too, because I was really looking forward to this all week. I was just like, Adam, why? Hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? And he's just so fucking patient. Dude. He's so patient. But I don't have anybody to talk to about it. You know what? My brother works for NASA here at John Glenn in Ohio.
So what does he have to say? Have you approached him with this?
No, I have not.
No. So you asked me.
He knows.
So I just want to read another question. I'm sure this one kills me from Ryan.
They annoy me.
So Ryan D. Hall had another one of these questions. It says, when the Great Flood happened, and then parenthetically, he says, about half of flat earthers actually claim to believe the Bible stories. Not all F-ears do.
Thanks for that.
So that's what threw me off right there. So I guess Ryan D. Hall is claiming to have spoken to each and every last flat earther, taken a poll, and about half of them believe in the Bible stories and the other half don't. Or he's just completely talking out of his ass and just trying to make a point. But that really just goes to show that he's willing to say anything just to get a little bit of attention. But he goes on to talk about, where did all the extra water come from? They claim it all froze at the edge. That's interesting. I don't know that I've necessarily heard that.
I've never heard that before.
75% of all statistics are made up. 25% of people know that.
According to doctors. What was that, Teresa?
I said Trey Smith explains it, but on the other hand, the Bible says that the windows of heaven opened. So, and if God is the one that's in control, he did with the water what he does with the water. I mean, what if the continents are floating? If it's just a matter of they were the deluge and then the continents floated up, back up.
Statistically speaking, 95% of all people can be bamboozled by statistics. So statistics are worth shit.
According to experts.
According to experts, for those that are prepared to listen to experts, and that sentence pre-qualifies the following statements, which means only 0.00009% of flat earthers believe the statistics that following are being quoted have any significance whatsoever. And therefore, 100% of all flat earthers, in fact, 100% of everybody believes the earth is flat by the preceding statistics that I've just stated. Because it's all masturbation. Because numbers from somebody who does numbers is numbers. It's nonsense, guys. And the only people that believe in numbers are those that don't understand numbers, which, frankly, I'm talking to. Because you're not medics.
That's me.
Questions are stupid.
I wonder if Ryan D also knows if he's polled the amount of flat earthers that believe the earth is rising constantly and floating upwards.
Oh, I'm sure. I bet you half of them think that it is.
Flat Earth Society shell game story that was.
How many of the flat earthers were back 200 years ago to confirm this great flood?
Listen, what if we're in a bubble?
There you go. I mean,
Nice.
it could easily be a bubble, as it could be a hard covered firmament dome, as it could be no dome and an infinite plane. I mean, I love to let the imagination wander and think about all the possibilities it could be. But as long as we get the foundation,
We're still okay with not knowing that we don't know. That's what the beauty of us.
That's where we have to stand firm on. Everything else can be just kind of conjecture, but there's no curvature and there's no motion.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then the rest is all hope and excitement.
How come that Ryan Hall didn't want to jump on with us? Was he invited to jump on with us?
Doubtful.
No,
he wouldn't. I doubt it.
I do think Brian tried to get him on, or maybe offered it, or has tried to get him on, or knows that he's tried to get on other things before. I'm not sure, but he did say that he was not willing to come on, so we knew that.
Because he was quite vocal in chat when I was leaving.
Sorry, Junior, go ahead. I mean,
Teresa.
But to be fair, it would have been 6 against 1. There's a little bit of a delay. I apologize if I'm interrupting.
No, you're right. It is.
Are you listening to the YouTube station again, or was that another guest? I'm getting confused again.
No, I'm on the phone.
Yeah, she's listening live. Shoot, what in the world was I going to say? I'd totally forgotten. It'll come back to me. So yeah, just to finish off that question, he says, if the earth is flat, then somehow a thin, flat disk once contained all of the water before the mists that covered the entire earth all went away.
Right. Now, so Josh, that again is
look how deep the oceans are.
No, slow down. Stop trying to react to him, Teresa. Breathe.
I know. I'm sorry. I did just get
Listen to the bullshit of their question and listen to the presupposition that they build into their question. Okay? And as soon as you do that,
isn't it?
There's no question to answer, is there? Because what they want you to do is listen to the first point of their question without the presupposition of the second and third points. And without the presupposition of the second and third points, you can't answer the first. And I know that sounds arrogant and nonsensical in its statement, but that's the reality of the mind game they're asking you to engage in. It's nonsense.
But that's exactly why I don't talk to people about this kind of stuff, because there's stupid questions like that. Well, would you fall off the edge? Come on. Let's have a talk. There's ideas and never mind.
Hey, Adam, I have a question for you. What do you know about phosphors? I remember when I was a kid, we used to get the little glow-in-the-dark stars that you would stick up on your ceiling. And then you'd turn on the bright light, and the bright light would charge it. And then when it got dark, it would then shine a charged light back. So it would then sort of glow in the dark. Have we thought about trying to temp light from some of these really bright phosphors and see what kind of light they emit?
Ooh.
Ooh, Adam reckons. Got him thinking.
I heard the thinking begin.
Amazing.
We should have the Jeopardy music playing now, shouldn't we?
Really should. You probably got the little hamster just going crazy in there.
I think I can hear him thinking.
He may not have too much to say about that. Or maybe I just broke him.
Phosphor, which will burn in
dirty bomb
water, in water, in liquids.
Well, again, it's not like they're having to burn because they're not really burning anything. They just store the energy. They're like a light capacitor. They just store it and then release it slowly. And
How does that work, Adam?
Not very efficiently because they don't glow for very long or for very bright, depending on the cheap phosphors they're using on the toys or whatever. I'm sure you could probably get some nice big industrial strength that would shine brightly and for quite a while.
Okay. So the way I would add to that is do 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 do
time warp fringe.
Yeah. And then you've got to turn it around to the question. Okay. And those sorts of game shows are quite interesting, aren't they? Because they're about a mind programming of the asleep. Because the very
how do we get on the game shows?
Oh, fuck that, Rob. Listen. The point I'm making.
Ah, good on you.
Yeah. The point I'm trying to make, forget outside of the subject we're talking about, is the point of that is that to subjugate you from the topic you're discussing and to reverse the question in such a way that you no longer ask the question, you just ask black or white with regards to the question that has been asked, is the point of game shows like that. But that's where we got onto that point. But the point you were really asking was
Adam, why is moonlight cold? Please tell me why moonlight is cold.
Okay, so that's the point, isn't it? Nobody asks the question.
That's the point. No, that's not the point. I want to know why moonlight is cold. What is your theory? I've given you like 3, and I get nothing back.
No, okay. And at no point should you take that as an insult. You should take that as I'm a scientist. And I will genuinely, I will answer a question with every bit of information I have. Because that's what I do.
Dude, make it up.
Yeah, but there is no information out there, is there? And that alludes to the point that I just made previously and is exemplified in the statement that I just insulted Rob on, is that whenever that question's actually asked genuinely, it's subverted and inverted and twisted to the point that nobody ever asked the question, do they? How many people do you know that have been out in the moonlight and said, oh, it's bloody freezing? How many scientific experiments do you know that asked the question?
How many? There's 6 of you. That's how many people I know.
Well, it's me, isn't there? There's real. I don't want to be rude here.
Yes, there's 6
but
of
it's
us.
me. And no one else has done a scientific experiment on this. Everyone else has wandered out into the moonlight.
You have to say, okay, I trust Josh.
No,
Trust losing the plot. That's not what you were saying. I know what you were saying, Adam. And
yeah, I'm not being rude. Genuinely, I'm not being. Powered by every single experiment that preceded it, because the purpose for me to set up the experiment was to use previous experiments to empower it, i.e., and I use the term empowerment in the terms of scientific criticism. So anybody that's upheld any scientific criticism of previous experiments, that's what I tried to do, guys. Every bit that I'd read over the past 2 or 3 years about the moonlight, when John said to me, and this was something I said to Reza actually in the week, more importantly, this ain't why I'm here, guys. If you genuinely think the reason God, and I'm not a Christian, has brought me to the flat earth realm is to bring up moonlight, you're a bunch of fucking idiots.
Right.
And that might
be it might be your claim to fame, but Adam, that might be it. What if that's the last thing you ever do?
Oh, you know what? Well, fuck you, God, right? Fuck you. If you think you spent all my years training me, right, to the level of expertise that I have, and this bullshit moonlight experiment that I've set up for you guys,
hand doesn't question the arm.
Respectfully, guys, you know, what I showed you, understand what I've done at university, understand what I've done past university, and understand that I qualified 20 years ago. Understand that I am described as a friend of the university, and I'm pretty sure I could get that in writing, okay? Understand where I'm at when I say to you guys that bullshit experiment, and I explained this to Teresa this week, that the purpose of me engaging in the moonlight experiment, not only just for me, but for you guys, was to prove to you, and maybe from John's perspective, the snide bastard, was to make sure that I was 100% a ball, not a non-ball earth opinion, and that my opinions were valid. But I've destroyed that. And the level at which I've destroyed it at is so insignificant. It's pathetic, guys. Yeah? It's pathetic on the scientific level. And the level that I want to bring to you guys, the information that I'm talking about, hopefully...
we'll be smart enough to understand.
Well, not smart enough, mate, because that's arrogant to understand. But hopefully you guys will understand that if I bring you something, as I've talked tonight about my statements of confidence about the flights, yeah, if I ever bring you any evidence, it's with confidence and a statement of fact, and that fact is supported by scientific evidence behind it, that every other bit of evidence that the ballers believe is scientific evidence, I have supported in the same way.